Hey everyone, hope you're all doing great. Welcome back to the Anime Fictions 2.0. Today, we're diving into Part 5, the final part of What If Naruto Learned from Itachi and Shisui. The Darkest Legacy Unleashed? If you're enjoying these alternate timelines, make sure to hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends, and check out the other videos on the channel. And of course, drop your thoughts in the comments. I always love hearing your ideas. Alright, enough talk, let's get into the story. Intermission. The Uzumaki returned his gaze unwaveringly, then said with an amused voice, "Well, if everyone in the world could easily understand one another so easily, war would never exist." Huh? Why suddenly he was talking about war? He smiled at the young uchiha. "Could you try one more time?" Sasuke swallowed. There was something in that smile that made him feel obliged to do as ordered. Was Uzumaki Naruto really the same age as him? He certainly didn't act like it. Hi. Sasuke went through the set of seals he had become very familiar with, inhaling and then exhaling. Gakakyu no Jutsu. Then a tanned hand moved from the corner of his eyes, and then the small ball of fire he emitted burst forward and grew larger, even larger than one his father demonstrated to him. He looked at the Uzumaki with awe and shock. "Just now, you." "I am just lending you a hand, a breeze of wind for your fire, because the only thing that can keep a fire from dying and give it more power is wind. Wind, an element of movement that grows, expands, free of restriction. It gives power and speed to fire to burn everything in their path. So your element complements my brother's fire?" He sounded sheepish. "My elemental affinity that made Shisui christen me his best friend on record time aside." Sasuke could imagine his cousin did that. He was a pyromaniac even by Uchiha standard. "Could you see it now? The image of Gakakyu no you want to breathe out?" When you start learning elemental techniques, an image is very important so your chakra can respond better to your intention. You're not used to using your chakra extensively, so your chakra is not needed thoroughly inside your body before converting it to fire element. A strong image of your desired effect will help. He was giving Sasuke tips? Oh, Sasuke felt embarrassed that he didn't get such a simple intention to help him. Then again, sometimes he didn't get his own brother's train of thought. "I will try again then." He wanted to tell the Uzumaki to not help this time, but he felt silly to say such a thing when he saw Naruto cross his arms with a knowing look. The fire he saw just now, it was released through his mouth as a thin torrent that slowly expanded to a bigger orb of fire as he continued to put more chakra to it. So it was like filling a vessel with more fire. Gakakyu no Jutsu. This time the fire was bigger than he usually achieved, not as big as one assisted by Naruto's wind, but bigger than his father's, and undoubtedly a respectable Gakakyu worthy of an Uchiha. "I did it!" he exclaimed. The Uzumaki laughed softly. "Congratulations, Sasuke." Huh. Sasuke fell on his knees. My legs, they felt wobbly and he couldn't muster any strength to get them to move. The Uzumaki sighed at him, with an understanding look mixed with amusement. "You're running low on chakra, not serious enough to require medical attention, but I think you need a good rest and a lift back to your home." Sasuke nodded stiffly before he computed what the last part of Naruto's sentence was implying. "Naruto-sensei, I don't wo." There we go. And the next thing Sasuke knew, he was already on the blonde's back, just like how his brother carried him when he got hurt. Sasuke grumbled some protests, but the Uzumaki pointedly ignored him. "It's fine, I know you're running low and make you try again, so the least I could do is carry you back home." Sasuke quieted down at that. He hated troubling people, especially someone he didn't know well like Naruto. He sighed and decided to roll with it. His mother would be happy he got along with Itachi's best friend. Speaking of his brother. Naruto-sensei. "Yes? Is there something troubling you, Ni-san and Shisui-san?" he asked hesitantly. There was no tension or any outward reaction, but the short pause was enough for Sasuke to tell there was something wrong indeed. "Why did you ask me?" he asked back instead. Sasuke had a lot of people dodging his question, and the biggest offender was his own brother. Shisui was almost as bad as trying to distract him all the time. He was not going to have another person ignore him. Naruto-san, who didn't even have age as an excuse, his rank be damned, to ignore him. "I want to know because I am worried, and I ask you because Ni-san will make me wait for the next time, who knows when," Sasuke grumbled, recalling his brother's excuse. Shisui-san will try to distract me with something else and ditch me when I don't buy his excuse, so that leaves you. The Uzumaki sighed. Ah, really, those two? He sounded resigned, as if he was used to cleaning up after Itachi and Shisui. Naruto-sensei? Sasuke's grip on his shoulder tightened. You will not ignore me, right? If you keep quiet just because you're already a shinobi or for some lame reason you're a scaredy cat. A ninja shouldn't run away from a difficult question. That taunt earned him an eye twitch. You're not even older than I am, so grown-up excuse doesn't work for you. The twitch was getting bigger. For the first time since Naruto carried him, the seal master inclined his head to look at him. Seriously, Sasuke-kun, and here I thought you're still unfamiliar with me, and the next thing I know you're blackmailing me if you're not the brother Itachi loves to death, he grumbled to himself. Listen, when you're a shinobi you deal with many things you can't share with civilians or anyone who isn't shinobi yet. He snorted. Classified information. That's a lame standard excuse, Naruto-sensei. It's not an excuse, it's a fact. You knew we're all part of ANBU, right? Sasuke quieted down at that. Secrecy is the core of our profession, you will understand once you get to that level. So don't ask Itachi and Shisui anymore. Even though we're shinobi, we would like to avoid lying to our family when it's possible. It hurts them when they are forced to lie to him. Sasuke frowned. But I want to help. Then he waited for the blonde to say something along the lines like he can't, and growled. Then help. Huh? I said you may help us for now, just continue what you do best for Itachi. He finished. Sasuke swallowed. What is it? Being there for him. Itachi is a complicated person, but his happiness comes from the simplest things like eating sweets and doting on his little brother. Sasuke blushed a deep red at the last part. The young uchiha grunted. But I want more help. And what do you have in mind then? If nothing else comes to mind, the Uzumaki trailed off. It's unfair. Sasuke scowled before he could stop himself. Why can't I be like you or Itachi at least a little? We're the same age, Sasuke grumbled, but at the first sight no one can tell. Naruto-sensei acts like an old man like Nissan. Why are both of you so aged? His sweat dropped. I got that a lot, but hearing that straight from a kid is kinda. His left eye twitched violently. I am older than you by 2 months. Sasuke pointed out smugly. My psychology eval says I am in my late 20s though. Before Sasuke could call him old, he added. So is Itachi. Shisui is the only one in the team whose mental age matches his real age. He sounded like he doubted the last part. Sasuke frowned. Why are you and Itachi so old? Life and Kage Bunshin happens. I don't get it. Good. The young Uchiha scowled. He knew this was one of those things Naruto and Itachi won't bother to explain to him. So unfair. Life is unfair. The Uzumaki answered smoothly. Say, Sasuke, if you really want to help us that badly. He nodded enthusiastically. Do you have friends at the academy? He could help? But how did having a friend at the academy have anything to do with it? Not really. They're annoying, especially Kiba and the girls. He heaved a sigh. Ah, good. At least you have a kid-like opinion about your classmates. Huh? Do you really have no one you don't mind being around with in class, Sasuke? He asked again. I don't mind Shino or his bug, so I usually sit beside him. The girls won't get near because they're scared of his bug. In short, Shino was his fangirl repellent, and he didn't mind joining Shino for group-related activity in class. It was some sort of symbiosis, or so Shino said. Shikamaru, Anara is so lazy it's so sad to look at him, but he and Chuji at least know how to be quiet, and they're not too annoying in comparison to the rest of my classmates. HMO, Shikamaru-kun and Shino-kun. Huh, you're also in the same class with them for the Sealing Foundation course, any? Yeah, there's a girl from my class named Sakura. An odd girl, in a good way, because she had her nose stuck on her book all the time to the point she didn't care about him at all. If anything, Sasuke had a feeling she looked down on him because he was ranked first in class, and yet struggled in Sealing class to keep up. To be fair, Fuinjutsu classes require more complicated mathematics and difficult kanji than one taught in class. And another girl a year above me in academy, she is very interested in uchihas. If Sasuke recalled correctly, her name was Tenten, an orphan without a surname. She thought he was cute, but she was more interested in the sharp pointy weapon than in him, so she was okay too. Well, I guess you can start helping with talking to them. Naruto told him. Huh? How is that helping you and Nissan? Sasuke wondered. This is not a ploy to get me to make friends, right? His mother had chided him for being a loner, and unlike Itachi, he didn't have an excuse of graduating early. The Uzumaki snorted, ha 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 no, well I did hear your mother complaining about your not so wonderful social life at the academy. Sasuke flushed at that. I am not a shining example at being social myself, and making friends can't be forced. I mean you can start being more approachable considering the current policy with early graduation. You will graduate with your classmates, and put in a 3-man cell with them. You have to trust 2 of them with your life throughout your career as genin. I am not sure how to explain this will help us in the long run, but it's catching 2 birds with 1 stone, any? Sasuke frowned. He was used to Itachi being cryptic, so he didn't protest. I will do my best to graduate early too. Isn't that how you choose your teammates? I am already a certified SEAL master not long after I become genin. A perk of being a SEAL master is that there is so few of us it's considered a waste of resource to send us to normal mission, which is also why I am placed on reserve while working in Konoha. Uzumaki explained. The young uchiha hummed, so there were a lot of benefits for a SEAL master considering they were scarce. Still, Sasuke didn't expect Naruto to be more open about himself. He wouldn't let this chance slip. Then how do you get teamed up with Nissan and Shisui-san? The details are classified, but let's just say, I was on their mission for a while because of my unusual circumstances. For being the last Uzumaki, perhaps? Their captain thought it's a good idea to arrange a playdate like we have the same wavelength, or something. At first, it was just Itachi, and then he brought Shisui along, and the next thing we knew we got stuck together. Sasuke had to admit when he first met Naruto he also thought someone who was not Shisui and knew Itachi so well must have shared the same wavelength with Aniki. I am sorry to say, I don't share Itachi's wavelength as I don't get his taste for dango, and those overly sweet snacks. His dropping IQ when you're concerned and many more. He listened, and Sasuke had to appreciate the Uzumaki politely ignoring his gaping. You can read minds? There was a long pause that made Sasuke wonder if the Uzumaki clan had secretly developed mind-reading techniques like Yamanaka. I am not reading your mind, I'm just guessing. Sasuke frowned at that. Wait, what do you mean Nissan's IQ drop? Nissan is the smartest, the best. I can't drop his IQ or whatever? Sure you can, you just never see. The blonde grumbled discernibly about cats and harassment. We're here, Naruto announced, and Sasuke looked up to see his house was in sight, and his mother had just returned from shopping for dinner when she spotted them. Naruto-kun. Sasuke-kun. Ma. Did his mother just squeal? Sorry for the trouble. Did you carry Sasuke home? Thank you, my sons didn't know their limits sometimes. Naruto, on the other hand, as always looked very awkward in responding to his mother's enthusiasm for the blonde. It's fine, he assured Sasuke's mother as he put Sasuke down. The young Uchiha was strong enough to stand on his own now. Let's have dinner with us tonight, Naruto-kun. We're having sukiyaki tonight. As usual, before the Uzumaki could say anything, his mother dragged the poor shinobi to their house, or specifically to their kitchen to cook. If there was one thing Sasuke won't envy Naruto for, it would be cooking time with his mother. He loved his mother, but he was not going to get dragged to cooking lessons ever. That night, after dinner with the Uchiha, it was pretty late, but he had to send messages to the tower that he was with the Uchiha family, and if Itachi and Shisui had a problem with it they had to face their family themselves. Tasugaru, Itachi's and Shisui's crows summoned, looked unhappy with the order, but he didn't protest. I am so sorry for Itachi, but well, it was a very strange situation to apologize to Itachi's parents. In regards to Itachi himself, he already had a feeling the almost forceful dinner invitation had hidden intention behind it, namely Aunt Mikoto wanted to know why his son didn't come home for 2 days already. Mikoto looked sad and worried. You shouldn't apologize on behalf of my son, Naruto-kun. It's just for a while. More like years, but no one wanted to pry. We noticed whenever something happens on our missions that Itachi would clamp up and look for all sorts of excuses to stay away from home. Shisui-kun isn't any better so. Mikoto and her husband had the decency to look sheepish, though as they were Uchiha their sheepish look only changed slightly than their permanent solemn look. Ma, Sasuke-kun said as much. Like sons like parents? Itachi won't explain a thing. Shisui will try to distract you with his chatter, and then disappear before you can get anything out of him. Which was why it left him they had never tried to ask before. I am so sorry, Naruto-kun, it's pretty embarrassing, really. I am his mother, and yet I am so bad at dealing with him. Naruto shook his head. If I may be so bold, I have to say it's Itachi's fault for keeping things to himself all the time. I am also the same, he admitted with a blush. So more often than not, people around us unknowingly make us upset, and it's hard to admit that, so we deal with it on our own discretion. His voice getting tinier in the end, eyes shifted to the side, as it was hard to look Mikoto and Fugaku in the eye. Mikoto sighed, cupping her cheek. Really, you kids, and I thought Itachi is getting better at trusting us, but I suppose it's not that easy to recover our broken trust. Still, he should tell us, if not we wouldn't know what to fix, don't you think so too? Naruto-kun? We're not mind readers. Mother was scary, Naruto thought as he resolutely tried and failed to not avert his eyes. That's true. He stuttered, but telling things is hard. I know it's wrong, but... So you too, Naruto-kun? He tensed at that. To Hokage-sama, I guessed. AAA, he nodded hesitantly. We don't know where to start, and I guess we also don't want to change the image you have. It's just scary to face rejection from people who acknowledge your image as the perfect prodigy. Fugaku frowned. Well, I suppose it's my fault to think my son has no vulnerable side. If it's any consolation, Fugaku-san, Itachi doesn't like to show anything less than a perfect son and heir. Is that so? Fugaku chuckled, but there was no mirth in his voice. So why don't you explain to us? Because we know Itachi won't. He contemplated his choice, and if he refused it would upset Itachi's parents, but they would understand. But on the other hand, Itachi needed all the help he could get to break down the wall between him and his parents. Besides, it wasn't like Itachi ever asked or implied he wanted to keep his reason secret. All right, he decided. But first I want Fugaku-san and Mikoto-san to not get angry at Itachi, and even after I tell you, please talk to him, be honest and forget about the clan, just be his parents. Then he added, please. It was very rude of him to lecture them, but he knew Itachi needed them to be open and see Itachi as a son rather than their heir. I understand, Fugaku answered for both of them. I will give you my words. Naruto nodded, relieved they didn't seem to be upset because of his forwardness. Thank you, Fugaku-san. He took a deep breath. I need you to promise that, because if not, there is no point telling you. It's something I'm aware of just recently too. His distant behavior towards you appears at first to have nothing to do with putting clan before village first. Fugaku and Mikoto looked surprised. Naruto just smiled sadly. Itachi is an awkward child, at least that's the impression I get from what Shisui told me. He is still like that, he is getting better though. Do you know when he was 5, he said he was wondering about the meaning of life and death. What's the point of living if humans will die anyway? Mikoto cupped her cheek. Should I be worried about my son thinking about such a thing when he was 5 years old? I mean, Naruto caught himself before he could spill about Itachi attempting suicide to test his survival instinct. It's just... The Uchiha matriarch narrowed her eyes. You're hiding something, Naruto-kun. Ma, it's not something you should be worried about now, Mikoto-san. Itachi already talked to me about it anyway. She sighed. It's one of those promises between boys, isn't it? Not quite, but Naruto wouldn't want to be the one to inform Mikoto that his mature child jumped off of a cliff to test a theory. Though maybe one of these days he had to get Hakurei to ask some favor from Yamanaka and Noichi-san to get Itachi a therapy session just in case. Kinda. He lied through his teeth. So Itachi is used to thinking about this kind of thing, so immersed in thinking he forgets about understanding. He is pretty slow about understanding his own feelings. Mikoto smiled at that. Strange now you said it, it's not hard to see how my son can be slow when it comes to his feelings. That's also why he confused me so much when he just met. He kept coming to visit me bringing sweets and talking about daily life. It's not until weeks later I realized he is actually attempting to befriend me. I am not any better than he is at social cues, doesn't help either. Fugaku and Mikoto's sweat dropped. I never imagined Kushina's and Minato's son would be as awkward as my son. In short, Itachi didn't get that something can be as simple as saying it out loud, and save us both from the pain of awkward 2 weeks of eating sweets and talking about how our days went. Like 2 old men in retirement. Our son can't be that bad, could he? According to Shisui, he was even worse when he was in his genin team. He thought they're his coworkers rather than comrades, even though he already went out of his way to help his teammates. for personal reasons. Yes, he is that bad. And spending a better part of his first year as genin thinking about what being comrades is about. Naruto finished. Itachi sometimes overthinks things like comradeship most people take for granted and keeps them to himself. That's why when his teammate was killed, the simple fact is that he didn't have to understand or think because what mattered was that his teammate died trying to protect him. That's when he awakened his Sharingan, he desired so much in exchange for his teammate's death. And yet you. Fugaku was shocked at the anger aimed towards him. You overlooked that to get those eyes he lost something dear, and because of your expectations, he can't even show his discontent. All you see is a perfect heir that accomplishes something great, but to Itachi he is a failure who his teammate died for. Naruto inhaled sharply. You didn't mean it to hurt Itachi. I know, but it didn't make it better for Itachi. That's why he didn't want to be home, and shisui didn't stop him. Mikoto looked at his husband, whose face colored with guilt. Good, at least Fugaku knows he is at fault. Then she turned to Naruto. I see, but why now? Naruto looked stricken before he regained his composure. You have heard about the masked man, but we omitted the part he told us about the next level of Sharingan. Mikoto and Fugaku gasped. Nani? He was the one who killed Tenma, Itachi's first teammate in a sense. He gave Itachi his Sharingan, and recently he tried the same thing. Mikoto covered her mouth, eyes wide in horror. That man, how dare he? Naruto smiled sadly. Don't worry, I survived, but for a while, Itachi and shisui were fooled, so they thought I was. Mikoto paled, imagining how crushed her son and nephew were when they thought Naruto was dead. Is it any wonder Itachi doesn't want to be home now? Because the close call that was too close to what happened 5 years ago to Itachi's teammate, and her son didn't want to be reminded. Naruto was more than just a comrade to Itachi. They were brothers in all but blood, and if what happened with Tenma repeated again. The ceiling tower. Shikamaru wondered what possessed him to sign up for this. Sure, the lessons were fun and stimulating his brain more than what he got at the academy, but coming to ceiling tower on weekends was troublesome. The classroom was different from the academy. It was barely half the size of the academy classroom with a low table, so they sat on the floor instead of a chair. A simple and quaint Japanese-style room with tatami mat and shoji door. Although, as a member of the Nara clan with a taste for board games, he could recognize the wood of the table they used as kaya. It was a very expensive wood for Goben, board for Go game, and the wood was old if the rich dark color was any indication. In short, the ceiling division was filthy rich. The tatami of this classroom was also of high quality. According to his father, the ceiling division's wealth was old money. Like most old clans like Hyuga, their clients were mostly nobles who invested in their security. Well, if his mother's indignant expression when they received the bill on renewing the seal of their clan's compound was any indication, the seal was damn expensive. Though according to his father the cost was actually quite cheap, and the ceiling division was giving them the best deal they could get. At first, Shikamaru didn't understand how work made of paper and ink could be so crazily expensive, but now he got why. Becoming a seal master was hard work, and some more. Seal masters were scarce, so everything was limited, including mass-produced seals. And last but not the least, this career also needs a lot of money invested in research and experiment. It was no wonder when the opportunity arose Konoha wanted to milk it for her future generation. Opening this class so they could get fresh blood in this field, and Shikamaru could tell this was also some sort of troublesome political campaign. His father didn't say it out loud, but Shikamaru could catch the hint. Troublesome. Shikamaru groaned. While it's allowed for you to come in this class just to observe. They were selected to join the class permanently though. Your motivation to come is a bit. Pouted. I want to see Sasuke-kun coolly holding calligraphy brush again, and I heard that the cool seal master is teaching you today. Where did you get that information anyway? Shikamaru wondered. And I thought you only liked Sasuke. Giggled. So? I am not dating anyone yet, so it's fine for me to look around. Troublesome girl. Sakura, who was sitting beside sighed. All sensei in this class are strict, Ino-chan, stricter than Iruka-sensei. You can't ogle at Sasuke-kun even if you want to, or at Waka-sensei. Blinked olishly. Waka-sensei? His name is Waka? Sakura shrugged. I don't think so, but all seal masters I've seen around, including Yuzuriha sensei, call him young master, Wakasama, and he is the youngest sensei we have here. Ino hummed, and that's why you call him Waka-sensei. They had Yuzuriha sensei and Hosho sensei most of the time, and on occasion kind and friendly Mikumo sensei helping them with their basics, but the young blonde was the rarest. They started this class for a month and a half and they only had him once before, and even then he was just observing the class and giving input here and there. So he still didn't introduce himself at all? How mysterious of him! Ino gushed, but why so secretive with his name? He is not undercover, is he? Suddenly a familiar voice interjected. His name is Uzumaki Naruto. He is a 5th Dan Seal Master. In our regular force he is ranked Chunin. Ino squeaked, Sasuke-kun. You know him? Sasuke was starting to regret speaking up, but when he asked Shisui-san, his cousin assured him that talking and getting familiar with people outside of his clan was helping them. Of course, he is in the same team as my brother and cousin. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow. Uzumaki Naruto? Sasuke shrugged. That's his name. According to my cousin, he didn't tell us his name just to get our attention back then while you're wide awake in his presentation. Nara's left eye twitched. Oh. Shino, who was mostly forgotten and sitting a row behind him, spoke suddenly. Being an unknown sometimes draws attention better. Why? Because it's in human nature to be drawn to mystery. Ino rolled his eyes. Well, Kiba of all people was also enthusiastic and listening in a sense. Then again, even Shikamaru was wide awake. Shikamaru protested weakly, before turning his attention to Sasuke. Your brother's team? So he is around your brother's age. He does look older than their year at least. Sasuke paused, wondering if it was alright to tell Nara the truth. It was not like Naruto was hiding his age, it was simply because the Uzumaki was taller than average, mature, and already the Chunin people assumed he was at least in his early teens. Well, look what we have here. Sasuke almost jumped at the familiar voice. Hello there, I am so happy to see Sasuke-kun had lots of friends. A certain Uchiha beamed at them with a sunny grin. Sure, Sasuke stuttered, wondering since when his cousin was behind him. Shisui-san? What are you doing here? The curly-haired Uchiha raised an eyebrow, as if the younger Uchiha had asked a dumb question. Funny you asked that. I have been hanging around the tower longer than you, Squirt. I dropped by this class to see how you're doing. Sasuke frowned. Are you allowed to come in as you please? They had been briefed on their first day that no one but certified seal masters were allowed to wander around the tower without supervision. Without Naruto-sensei, I mean. Of course, this is like my second or third home. Shisui beamed. No, it isn't. Someone denied, but you never listen, and one of these days you might get yourself killed if you walk into one of our dangerous experiments, Shisui. Sasuke's eyes widened in surprise when he saw Naruto by the door with his brother beside him. Nissan, Naruto-sensei. Itachi sighed. We take our eyes off of you for 1 second and you wander all the way to Sasuke's class. Can't you be more patient? Naruto didn't take that long to prepare his class, you know? One of these days we really have to put a leash on you. The blonde added before clearing his throat. Class is about to start. We're going to change rooms, so follow me. Make sure to bring your belongings with you. The students quickly scrambled to gather their belongings as ordered before following Naruto and his team outside. Some of them were excited since this was the first time they got to see another part of Sealing Tower. The Sealing Division was very strict with their security, so the students weren't allowed to go anywhere without supervision. Make sure no one is left behind. Naruto-sensei's voice was clear but not overly loud. Shikamaru noted it must be some sort of chakra enhancement. We're going to take a long way up the stairs. If any of you get tired, tell me or any of my teammates. Is that clear? Hi! They chorused. It was an exhausting walk through spiral staircase made of stones with spiral carving, around a circular pillar Shikamaru suspected was a lift considering the mechanical noise. Why didn't they take the convenient lift? Either Uzumaki Naruto was a jerk who likes to torture his students, or there was some sort of hidden purpose in tiring them out. Sensei, someone above his age whined at last, can't we just take the lift? That's our cargo lift. He answered smoothly, and students like you don't have clearance to access the room that is connected to the lift. But No more complaints. If you're tired, you will be excused from this class. That shut the boy up. Shikamaru now was seriously considering Uzumaki Naruto was just being a harsh teacher, and there was no hidden intention in this long walk. Heh. Sasuke, who was walking beside him, which was odd because he was on the back of the group, was conversing with his brother. Oh, that's why he is all the way back here. Sasuke's brother was on the back of the group, most likely to make sure no students would wander or left behind. Uchiha Itachi, who looked like an older version of Sasuke but prettier according to Ino, smiled at his brother. Shikamaru recalled Sasuke's brother was 4 years older than them and graduated early from the academy. He was a chunin and his black eyes wandered to the gray vest the Uchiha wore. ANBU. So most likely. Regulate your breathing, brats. You will hurt yourself if you don't. Uchiha Shisui, who was in the middle of the group, instructed them. Like this. 1-2-1-2-1-2. Shisui, you don't have to be that loud. Tone it down. Uzumaki Naruto, who was on the front, warned his teammate. Troublesome, these guys couldn't be older than 15 and all of them were in ANBU already. A 3-man cell team made of prodigies? That was unusual. Konoha, in spite of what most wanted to believe, didn't grow prodigies on trees. Sannin was a rare case, and Sandaime picked his students himself. So for these 3 to be teamed up, it must be under unusual circumstances. Nanisa and Naruto-sensei is tiring us out, what's the point? Sasuke asked his brother. Uchiha Itachi smiled at his brother. He is not trying to tire you guys out. The level we're going to visit is somewhere you have to be familiar with once you get your certification. And also the tower is a very old building, with a different architecture than the rest of Konoha, so it's easy to get lost. This spiral stair, for example, is meant to mess with your spatial perception. So it was about getting used to the unusual layout of this place? That's interesting and troublesome, thought Shikamaru. Ceiling tower, 8th level. The circular room was bare and, like most of the ceiling tower, was made of polished white stone of unknown origin. It was also so large, with a ceiling so high, Shikamaru felt uneasy here. Most Konoha's buildings had low ceilings, even an important room like Hokage's office, so to them this place felt so alien. Of all time I decided to come along with you, Ino panted heavily. It's on the day we walk up countless stairs, I lost count how many. From how wary she was looking at her surroundings, Shikamaru concluded the intimidating room got to her nerves too. It was not just them but other kids too. There was a strange air in this room that made them uneasy. This room is so big, someone shouted. Shikamaru's eyes widened. This room, considering it's made of stone and so spacious, why is there no echo at all? Sasuke frowned. It's so empty. And he didn't mean the lack of furniture. It was a lifeless place, or it had that kind of impression on him. Aburame Shino could feel his Kikaichi buzzing and restlessness underneath his skin. Uzumaki Naruto cleared his throat. Welcome, students. To Yugen no Ma, if any of you notice this room feels unusual to you, that means you have a talent to be a sensonin. That incited excited murmurs among the students. As for why we're here today, he frowned at their empty hands. Why are your hands empty? Notes out. But sensei, there are no tables here. Someone protested, hand raised. A table is as luxurious as a flat surface is for a seal master on a mission. Where did they get the idea that shinobi worked indoors all the time? Get used to that. We don't care how you produce legible notes, it's part of our training. As seal masters in studies, they weren't allowed to use notebooks with lines, because they had to practice writing without it. Or even using new paper, because in their line of work paper was a precious resource, so their notes were made of used paper. After some groaning and muffled protest, the students made themselves comfortable with using the slightly bumpy floor or any hard surface they could use. Well then, today I am teaching you seal master protocols, and by the end of the day, we will give you more assignments you will do routinely, to develop a good habit as seal master. First, I am going to teach you the drill when you start experimenting in designing seals. So to any of you who feel the difference between this room and outside, it's because this is a chakra sterile room, so ambient natural energy is very low here even when the barrier that will completely purify this room is not activated yet. So now. Sensei, what's nature's energy? Someone from the crowd asked, interrupting their instructor. Shikamaru noted that a number of students, including Sasuke and Sakura, were staring wide-eyed at the idiot who dared to interrupt a seal master. When they were recruited on their first day, they had been given a set of rules which included no wandering around the tower without supervision. However, the first rule was never ever interrupting a lecture before they were given permission to speak up, and idiots who tried had been harshly reprimanded. Shikamaru had not figured out why they had a big problem with students speaking out of turn, especially since his father said the sealing division was a huge believer in screw the rules, the heart is right, or whatever that meant. He guessed it had something to do with the high risk of their art, so discipline and obedience to their teacher were practiced religiously so no one got killed because they were not listening to lectures on foundation year. Don't speak out of turn. Explanation on natural energy will be after this. Yeah. But I want to know, aren't we supposed to be curious and all? The boy insisted petulantly. The idiot most likely though, because their teacher was most likely just a few years older than they thought he could get away with it. So is being patient and respectful. Uzumaki returned smoothly. Talk back to your instructor once again, and you're expelled. Eh? Understood? He pressed on with a smile on his face, but the students could feel the pressure, and even though only one of them was a question, all of them nodded in unison to his query. Well then, for today we're going through safety procedures when practicing Fuinjutsu. Obviously no one in the room except perhaps Sakura looked enthusiastic to learn something that sounded so boring. Most of the recruited students were nerds or in better sounding academically inclined students, so giving them books and theory to bury their nose in but going through a safety drill would still be boring for 8 to 10 years old kids, especially after a long climb of thousands of stairs. Of course, clan-affiliated children wisely shut their mouth when those cerulean eyes swept over the group that consisted of around 20 or so students. Well then, now we're all on the same page. I want all of you to scoot over a little to the left. After the student gave him a wide berth, Naruto pulled out a ninja wire with a kunai attached in one end and a brush in the other end. Then with practiced ease he used the tool to draw a large circle with diameter around 5 feet. It was a simple seal even though it had 8 layers, as the objective was just isolating ambient chakra out. Fast, Shino murmured from beside Shikamaru. He is faster than Mikumo-sensei. Or any sensei in sealing art they had so far. Shikamaru inclined his head at Sasuke. Uzumaki-sensei, he is a combat seal master, isn't he? He had noted from the way seal masters wrote their seal they could tell combat and support apart. Mikumo was supported so his writing was precise and not hurried. Combat seal master like Shiamitsu's siblings was more hazarded in their movement, like a fast forward movement. Uzumaki was even faster than Shiamitsu's sibling, but somehow his movement was also more fluid. Sasuke nodded, a generalist to be exact. Seal master that excelled in both combat and support. Shikamaru scoffed, go figures. He whispered back, no wonder we haven't seen him in class, and most likely not again for the rest of our foundation year. Someone of that caliber won't be wasted on teaching brats. The Uchiha shrugged, S.A. Unknown for the Nara and Uchiha, the Uzumaki seal master who just finished writing his seal was torn between reprimanding them or leaving the 2B because it was him who made Itachi's little brother start being sociable. Itachi gave him an amused smile before using A and BU hand signs to him. Only you can hear them all the way from here. Itachi himself could only tell his brother was conversing with the Nara boy because of Sasuke's body language. So let Sasuke and that Nara boy be for once, please. Naruto sighed, clapping his hands once to get their attention once again. The seal I just drew is called Seal of Purification Jorai no Fuin. The purpose of this seal is isolating ambient nature chakra from inside the seal. I am sure you have learned about chakra inside your body that consists of spiritual and physical energy, but there is also chakra in the environment, hence natural energy. Then he activated the seal and the script glowed before the center moved to the outer layer, leaving an empty center layer and a dome-like barrier in pale green color to form. Naruto gestured to their surroundings and clasped his hands once again because their eyes started to wander. Kids' short attention span was a norm for them. Now, the reason why we have to isolate this energy when experimenting is that it's an unexpected variable for seal design in an experimental state. It's not yours, and if it somehow affects your seal work, the result won't be pretty. Their fearful gaze was silently asking what he meant by not pretty. If you're lucky, the seal will just go bust. Cracking a little, then emitted some chakra smoke. If you're not, we will scrape you off of the floor. Naruto told them bluntly. They rolled his eyes at the horrified look he got in response, Which is why once you're allowed to draw a seal with chakra ink, if any of you forgot to put up this barrier first when experimenting, he trailed off, cerulean eyes narrowed dangerously. You're lucky if we catch you before a drop of ink even touches your paper, and we will have you expelled from this program. Because we would like to avoid scraping your remains from our interior after all. Harsh perhaps, but they didn't need accidents that would make them responsible for dead academy students. This was why the sealing division was so reluctant to take students from the academy. They were allowed to make as many mistakes as they needed to reach mastery in sealing art, but not slacking on standard safety procedures. That was one dumb way to go, and Naruto wanted all of these kids to get to first Dan at least before they suffered their first Fuinjutsu-related accident, or were expelled from this program. Considering this was their first batch, he had set a very optimistic goal. Well, his subordinates all expected one or two brats to get maimed a bit before their first year. No, they weren't pessimistic. That was a realistic expectation when Fuinjutsu was concerned. He just hoped when that happened to Kari, their medic Nin could fix whatever these kids got. The pink-haired medic was no Senju Tsunade. Now all of you will split into groups of 4, exercise time first to activate Joriai no Fuin. I will give each of you a sheet with the seal ready, so if you have formed your group, please send a representative to get the seal from me. As the representative made a line to receive the seal, he quickly added, if you have difficulties, please contact my clones. They will check on you and will make sure no one gets into an accident today. The seal was one of the most stable examples in history, but you never know. He noted with satisfaction Sasuke had quickly formed a group with his classmates, plus that Tenten girl but minus Ino who was just observing. The exercise, fortunately, went without a hitch, but some couldn't activate the seal because they didn't have enough chakra or just incapable to push enough chakra out of their body yet to activate the seal. Most of us in the tower have a larger than average capacity, so perhaps that's why do we have to add exercise to increase their reserve too. Naruto sighed, oh well, next exercise. As for why I have my teammates here, other than to be his bodyguard, because they were still not over that incident. It's to teach you the procedure of how to cooperate with other shinobi when you're working on seals in the field. He continued as he gestured towards Itachi and Shisui. Perhaps it's too early, but I would like you to have some idea about scenarios in field, especially since most of you are interested in being a combat seal master. Or so the questionnaire said. After the first month of study, it was a nightmare. Most of them were thinking of combat instead of support as their first choice. It was not a bad thing, and Konoha needed a combat seal master in the field. However, it didn't sit well with him. These kids were so enamored with the idea of jumping to a harder role so early in their study. Then again, kids, and their illusion of the adventurous life of shinobi. Damn Takusa and Yuzuriha for advertising Fuinjutsu with his father's name. Not a bad approach, but getting delusional about the career of seal master was going to bite them someday. Uchiha Itachi, pleased to meet you. He introduced himself formally. Hi. I am Uchiha Shisui. Nice to meet you, kids. Shisui waved at them cheerfully. At Shisui's sun-like cheerfulness, Shikamaru couldn't stop himself from asking, he is an Uchiha, right? Nara was not the only one who did a double take at Shisui. Sasuke inwardly wondered if the correct phrasing Shikamaru was looking at was whether or not Shisui was adopted. Yes, he is, and he is my cousin. Even though he acts like that, he can be serious sometimes. Though most of the time Shisui acted like an imbecile, and if not for his talent the clan would wonder if he was really Uchiha Kageme's son. As the seal master of your team, you have to develop a habit to keep your teammate in track of what you're working on. And vice versa, you have to fit in your skills set with your team. Looking at the puzzled look he got, Naruto knew there was a big misunderstanding of the combat seal master's role in the field. For example, Itachi looked at his best friend sympathetically, wondering if the blonde even realized he could just leave it to his subordinates to deal with the demonstration. Regardless, Naruto was the most experienced seal master who worked with a permanent team. As you can see here, I am labeling all my seal tags by coloring the edge. He passed them to Itachi and Shisui. The Uchiha then recited. Red for offensive seals, blue for barriers, purple for traps, and so on, and of course, as teammates, we will be very familiar with your seals. Shisui nodded. You kids have to be this organized at least. It's a very common scenario for a seal master to cater for multiple teams in battle, so we can't always have a seal master nearby to explain how to use the seals, so you guys also have to learn how to teach your teammates how to use them. Sometimes I even have to rummage for my teammates' belongings for a seal tag, and blowing myself up is the last thing I want. Itachi continued. As said by Shisui, you're most likely to cater seal supplies for more than just your teammates. Not all seals can be recognized by amateurs at sight, and especially not in the heat of battle, so this is for your own safety and your comrades, not to mention seals used in the field are designed in tag formula. The uchiha heir pulled out a tag and another, both were unmarked and using the same pattern in the arrangement. These seals are different since I am quite familiar with my teammates' work. I can tell them apart just fine, but in the hands of other comrades of ours this can be a problem. A big problem, Shisui added, grinning. Especially since most shinobi are under impression, the seal is activated by pasting it on the nearest surface and just putting some chakra in it. So when your seal is activated in a complicated manner, enlighten us with regular shinobi and don't let us just put on some chakra and wait for something to happen. It was hilarious when their vice captain said the same thing word to word when Naruto handed him the anchor formula for Haiti Rawen no Fuin. So starting from today, all notes and calligraphy work in class should be kept in an orderly manner. The method is up to you. The students started to converse among themselves. Though most didn't seem to mind to be more organized, some even boasted they kept their works in an orderly manner already. Then there's also the matter of team dynamics. By now you must already be aware of the team arrangement you will get by the time of graduation that would be geared to a certain purpose. Now, can anyone volunteer to give examples for us? Hi! Sakura raised her hand quickly, and at the nod she received she quickly listened. Tracking team, heavy combat, ambush and capture, infiltration. Naruto nodded. The girl had a good head on her shoulder. That's right, and so for the combat seal master to support the team they had to fit in. For example, our team is set for ambush and capture. They had skill in other areas, but they were very good at capturing their opponent alive. So the seals I designed for our team are geared mainly for traps like this seal. He held up a sample of Gomen Jimin no Fuin. And a number of seals that distract opponents to give an opening to my teammates, who are both and ninjutsu specialists. Then he went on explaining they were also expected to clean up the aftermath of a battle, and give more examples of how they should assist their teammates. Sasuke raised his hand, almost timidly. Didn't the combat seal masters also fight by themselves? Yuzuriha-sensei uses her seals to fight. Naruto could almost see most of them had the same thing in mind. They didn't expect their role to also include support like medic nin. Yes, we do, but like all specialists like medic nin, trackers, we have a role to fulfill that will exempt us from battle. For example, Aburame Shino. The bug user inclined his head. When you're using your Kakeicha to track down a target, an enemy appears to stop your team, you're short on time and your target is quickly approaching Haino Kuni's border. So who would be left behind to fight? Shino adjusted his glasses. Of course, it would be one of my comrades, preferably the best fighter. Why? So I can track our target and complete the mission's objective. The blonde nodded in approval. Well said. It's not that you're not allowed to fight or you're degraded to stay back while your comrades fight your battle. You have your own fight, however, unlike medic nin, you're also allowed to fight in the front line depending on the mission objective, and the seal you develop for a battle purpose. Naruto raised his hand that was holding a familiar tri-pronged kunai. This is Hiraishin no Fuin Yandame's prized battle seal, allowed him to turn the tide of the Third Shinobi War. The prime example of a seal developed for battle. Whoa! That kunai looks so cool. Naruto was starting to regret taking over the class if he had not after the endless complaints while walking up the stairs. In this case, Yandame-sama is augmenting a weapon as a medium. Hiraishin no Jutsu is both an offensive and defensive technique that uses Fuin Jutsu as its base. Another hand was raised, this time a girl with her hair up in twin buns. Sensei? Can you use Hiraishin no Jutsu? He perked up at the question the girl threw at him. Good question. The answer is no, I can't. The answer lies in why technique based on Fuin Jutsu is so versatile. They're personal or limited to a select few people like Kuchios no Jutsu. Hiraishin no Jutsu is, of course, keyed in for Yandame's personal use. Unless he passed the key, no one can use it. In fact, Hiraishin no Jutsu actually is not originally Yandame Hokage's technique. That incited some fuss among the students. The idea of Hiraishin at least originally belonged to Naidame Hokage, Senju Tobirama-sama. He waved his hand again, and this time a whiteboard appeared, followed with a marker with a brush tip. He quickly drew a shiki for Hiraishin on Yandame's version large enough for everyone to see, followed by Naidame's. Yandames was a set of kanji drawn beautifully on vertical, while the nidames was circular formulae using Sanskrit script. They look nothing alike, as you can see. In fact, the theory behind these two seals could be completely different, but their function is the same, teleporting its user to wherever the anchor seal is. He cleared his throat, which is why whatever seal you have in mind to assist you in battle, it's yours alone. Naruto paused, finding one hand raised which belonged to Nara Shikamaru. How about yours, sensei? What's with Nara and their curiosity of him? He had met two Nara so far and both were looking at him as if he was a puzzle they couldn't leave alone. He sighed before bending down to pull his knee-length Jikatabi down, and his prize seal appeared as he activated it. It was an odd-looking seal with two centers resembling a vine that went from the middle of Uzumaki's thigh to his calf. This is Hiku no Fuin, and the rest is self-explanatory. He could fly, their wide-eyed look said. As if to answer their silent question, Naruto jumped slightly, tucking his legs and floated a few feet above the ground. Then continued his lecture with his feet not touching the ground. So now the next exercise is presentation. One by one each of you will come forward and follow Itachi to the next door. We will show you a video of an experiment on seals. Inside these he held up two small scrolls, no larger than a child's hand in height. After that, you're expected to explain the function, and instruct how to use the seal in front of your class. Yeah? Unless, of course, you want to try bumbling through your explanation when it's raining kunai out there without preparation whatsoever. Naruto didn't even look up from his absence list. First, Aburaim Shino, you're up. The joy of being Aburaim, always guaranteed to be the first called. The rest of the class was very interesting. Aburaim was so mechanical at explaining that the whole class got distracted and forgot whatever he was talking about, or if he had finished or not. Sakura gave a good but complicated instruction, which clashed with her stuttering because of stage fright. Surprisingly, Shikamaru was good at it even though he ended his explanation with trouble and his voice was tiny and droning. Itachi chuckled, a good thing they start learning now. They could get their teammates accidentally blowing themselves up with their seal if this was how bad their presentation skill was. Especially. So this seal is to stop the fire. With Sasuke paused, trying really hard to recall what he wanted to say. You also have to keep your hand apart so the fire the seal inhales won't harm you, and you also have to keep the flow of fire-natured chakra steady if not Sasuke was so completely out of his element, and looked ready to dig a hole as he went in circles when explaining the seal. Hi, Uchiha Sasuke, your 3 minutes are up. If you take that long to explain a seal as simple Fukahauen in the middle of battle, someone will die first before you're done, cousin, Shisui said as he stopped his stopwatch. And if I am your enemy I would have burned your butt first before you could seal my fire. Itachi's little brother blushed as red as his favorite fruit. Shisui-san. The good news was he got to spot a number of problems earlier before it became worse in their effort to nurture a large batch of seal masters at the same time. The bad news, he and Hakurei really had to redo the curriculum. Damn it, they were already behind schedule. Everyone was trying to distract him from boredom and stress, obviously. Then again, perhaps because of Satoru, people around him stopped trying to be subtle, sealed or not. Shisui was the biggest offender with dragging him away from his workshop to hang out and train with the silliest reasons, such as his workplace was too dreary for a living. He didn't live there, damn it. Just in the same building, but close enough. Itachi looked hesitant with their choice of place today, and Naruto didn't blame him. For whatever reason, Shisui decided Itachi should catch up with his ex-teammate Shinko and introduce them to her. He also smoothly guilt-tripped Itachi to it, with the reason that Itachi had one surviving teammate while Shisui had none he could talk about good old days with. Plain depressing in Naruto's opinion, a 13 and 16-year-old talking about good old days, which was when they were 7. Though he was not one to talk, considering he had a skewed sense of time because of Kage Bunshin, experiencing his day 10 times through memory transfer did that to you. On a brighter note, Itachi and Shisui would get their promotion after the next mission with the Ro team. Yay, and that meant he would get his guards back. He had slight suspicion the promotion was partly because Sandame-sama was worried about his safety, so that meant goodbye freedom. And hello again monitored daily life. At least it would be a while until they got their other members for ANBU squad, and in the meantime Itachi and Shisui would hang around Team Ro. He couldn't wait to get out of that team, not that he hated being there, but being around Hatake Kakashi was so awkward. The ANBU captain tried, But after that talk, Hitaki seemed a bit well, there was no point regretting spilled milk. He couldn't imagine if one day Hitaki found out his real identity. Speaking of his identity, Shisui seriously dragged him to a tea house with them? Not the teammate's house but the shop. Maybe it. It was not crowded, the type of shop tucked in the corner, and recommended by shinobi to their peers as those quiet places with discreet staff. There were no civilians around, of course, but his reputation with the shinobi population was just slightly better, which was not comforting at all. Shisui grunted, as if I care about being seen with you, a teammate and my closest friend. He glanced at Itachi meaningfully, and the Uchiha's heir just smiled. If it's Shinko-san, you don't have to worry, at least what you have in mind. Shisui paused. Oh yeah, Shinko is that kind of girl after all? Huh. Shinko was Shinko? It didn't take long for him to figure out what Shisui and Itachi meant, and he cursed them inwardly for not giving him a prior warning. Inari Shinko was a former member of Itachi's genin team, who quit shinobi life to be a waitress in her family's tea house. She was slightly plumper in build, with gray hair with different shades than Hitaki, with eyes in a darker shade. She was also strong for a retired kunoichi, considering how she greeted Itachi was with hitting him square on solar plexus, and Itachi grunted, which mean it was painful, before lecturing the uchiha for not coming often for her sweets, and how hard it was just to swing by to say hi. Then she turned her attention to the rest of the team, thanking Shisui for putting up with difficult kid Itachi was much to Itachi's indignation, and high-fived the other uchiha. Then her dark gray eyes landed on him, and Naruto froze. Her lips trembled, her cheeks flushed pink. Kya! Who is this cutie you bring with you? Kohai? Ah, he is my teammate Itachi, who was still rubbing the sore spot, Shinko had said. Shinko cupped her cheeks and stared at him unblinkingly. My! You're so pretty. Shisui interrupted. He is a boy, by the way. Like Itachi here, he is one of those who is too pretty for his own good. It's so unfair for you girls. Your input is appreciated, but the rest is just plain annoying. Ow, and here I thought you have standard 2 boys and 1 girl. Ma, her hands twitched. Anu, can I hug you? His mind went blank. Yes? I mean, why? The next thing he knew, Shinko had pulled him to a hug. Thankfully she had given him a warning so he didn't perceive it as hostile, but this girl was really strong, and she was suffocating him with her chest. Ha ha ha, marshmallow heaven, Shisui commented. What heaven? He needed oxygen to breathe, and he was not a pervert. Hawa, your hair is so soft, what shampoo did you use? Shinko, I think you should let go of him. He needs to breathe. Itachi, you should have said so faster. Naruto took a deep breath of sweet oxygen to his lungs, patting his chest after Shinko at last let go of him reluctantly. He was no stranger to older girls wanting to hug him. He had his fair share of noble women cooing over him. He blinked at the plate of dango on his table. This is? He hadn't ordered anything. It's on the house, thank you, sweets. It took Naruto a moment to compute Shinko's pointed look at Itachi, and what her gratitude was for. Ah, you're welcome, I am also grateful, he returned. Shinko blinked olishly at that before she patted Itachi's shoulder on her way back to the kitchen. Good for you, Itachi. Itachi, unfortunately, didn't understand the exchange. Is that so? Shinko could only laugh at her former teammate. Ha ha ha, as clueless as ever, your genius really can help you with this sort of stuff. Naruto's lips and Shisui quirked up at that, and discreetly exchanged looks with Shinko before they burst into laughter. Leaving Itachi out, and the genius for once sulked because his friends made fun of him. Naruto and Shisui spent the whole day pacifying sulking Itachi. I wish this peaceful day could go on forever, Naruto prayed in his heart. At that moment, he had no idea that wish wouldn't be granted. The crack on the great tree of Konoha was already spreading and his tiny hands were powerless to mend the broken tree. Chapter 24, Disquietude. His life changed quite drastically since he was that 6-year-old pariah, who didn't know his proper place in his own village. Starting from the mysterious notes and tampered seal left behind by an unknown seal master, who could have killed Naruto by accident. Naruto never knew what that old man was aiming for, but Naruto survived the ordeal somehow. The tampered seal leaked part of memories and chakra of his parents left within the seal to his coils, and he started dreaming of a family that never came true. His young mind was truly a wonder to accept the fate his parents subjected him to when he was less than a day old, stuck for life with their killer and faced this cruel world without them. Naruto didn't throw a tantrum from the revelation that life didn't get better just because you know why it sucked, because he couldn't do anything about the past. The villagers weren't going to change their mind about him no matter how many times he made graffiti and dumped glitter all over them. Even the prisoner in his seal pitted Naruto for that, because at least Uzumaki Mito and his mother knew what they were getting into. It wasn't so bad, he was freed from ignorance that he was ever at fault. They hated him. It was liberating to know it was their problem, not his. So Naruto did everything he could to better his life and forget changing their mind. So he studied sealing arts, improved his grades as well as he could and graduated early just so he didn't have to get stuck in Shinobi Academy for another 5 years. Just in time too, because not long after Naruto graduated, the law was passed to ensure all genin candidates were no younger than 12. Aside from Sandame's desire to pass this law for a long time during the peace period, the law could only be approved after Konoha made it beyond the minimum line of human resource recovery the council had set. They lost too many people during the Third Shinobi War and Kyuubi attack, and Naruto just happened to be the last early graduate. Or rather, the council minus Sandame himself wanted Naruto to be out of the academy as soon as possible and in the active shinobi's roster. Regardless of their plan for him, Naruto agreed it was for the best, because unlike him the academy works for most kids and they should make the best of the time they have as shinobi in training. There was no good time to be had by Naruto in the academy. He had no friends and nobody was on his side to further his learning there. One could say rather than graduating, Naruto was getting out from the academy. He still spends an inordinate amount of time in his daily training since then to catch up with his neglected education. He made friends with Itachi and Shisui, or rather they approached and convinced him to keep them around. He was unsure how it happened, as the uchihas avoided him like the plague for obvious reasons. It said a lot about Sandame's faith in them to let them befriend him, and likely also thinking they would make great insurance in case Kurama acted out. Regardless of Sandame's reasoning, it was Naruto's choice to return their friendship. He wouldn't trade them for anything else, he would hold on to them with his all. Sandame for once was lenient about past connection to his parents, and had him enrolled as part of Sealing Division, the organization founded by Uzumaki Mito after Konoha's founding. Naruto was not aware of the political intrigue Sandame was up to when he was assigned to Aizen, his first proper Fuinjutsu teacher. Even living in the same building and same division, it was the same modus operandi. He was placed where they could protect him, without coming close. There were two factions in the Sealing Division, the traditionalists led by Shiomitsu clan and Yazushio natives who followed Uzumaki Mito to Konoha, and a new generation from Konoha native led by Naruto's teacher. It was a logical arrangement, forcing the descent to cease, and with the prospect of Naruto becoming the next legitimate leader of the Sealing Division, he could unite the division. Of course, nothing could be easy, and his teacher turned out to be a traitor like the Shiomitsus had suspected him to be all along. While Naruto escaped his teacher's betrayal with his life, he lost his A and B guards. Itachi and Shisui were also injured and Naruto was faced by his weakness once again. He didn't even know the details of cleaning up the tower had to go through in the aftermath of Aizen's betrayal, but the traditionalists took over the tower once more, and what remained of Aizen's followers were pushed out. Sandame was not very happy about that, but the head of the Shiomitsu clan, Hakurei, was adamant to purge the influence of Aizen from the tower. Now, the tower was seen as an anti-Konoha monolith occupied by Uzumaki Mito's old vassals in the eyes of Sandame and the council. Naruto was too distraught to notice and was more concerned about his new shiny rank and other new responsibilities. He immersed himself into research and missions, distancing himself even further from the village. It wasn't like people around him influenced him to do that, but they were not discouraging this behavior either. He also went to make connections with the daimyo of Fire Country, or to be exact the Shadow Ruler himself. It was not really what he intended at the time, but Naruto wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. His status as his Namikaze Muramesa's grandson afforded him the chance, and he passed Tokugawa Ieyasu's stupid test to earn it. You just couldn't make too many connections, plan B to Z and not just plan A. For all the newfound maturity he had as a fresh chunin, Naruto didn't understand the repercussions of his actions or the possessiveness of his village for him. First, it was Danzo, the leader of Root, sent his subordinates to abduct Naruto in the middle of his mission. The councilman kept it no secret he disagreed with how Naruto was raised. Other villages, especially Kumo, were quite meticulous in raising their Jinchuriki as a perfect weapon for the village rather than a simple deterrent the Shodai meant it to be. The same could not be said about Naruto, was raised free-range and even went as far as making a team with potential threats like Uchiha children. Worst of all, there was Naruto's growing indifference toward the villagers, and just like that he became a flight risk that had to be corrected in the eyes of Danzo. Apparently it didn't occur to Danzo that Naruto wasn't going to betray Konoha. He just didn't want to subject himself to scorn by becoming a walking eyesore. Naruto of course thought Danzo was just as satisfied with him for not being raised as a proper weapon and nothing more. Just like how Naruto couldn't understand Danzo's paranoia, the same went for the Warhawk. But then he was given a mission to capture a suspected traitor. Naruto should have an idea by then. The Hokage and the council was hinting at something with this mission. Naruto never knew he had anything to prove to them and Konoha. He never really figured it out because that masked Uchiha interrupted the mission and attacked them. He almost died, his body broken, and he survived because Kurama's regeneration was impossibly good. He still scared his friends so thoroughly they didn't want to let him out of their sight. Even now, Naruto couldn't go anywhere without their crow perched somewhere nearby. To be fair, he had a teleporter after him. That masked man could have plucked him out of the village, and they couldn't stop him. Naruto supposed all he could do was develop his own space-time technique and never be alone. He was willing to forego his privacy for greater good, and continued being the good shinobi of Konoha. But then one visit to Uchiha's compound and he set people off. It wasn't even his first visit of the week. The Sandaime didn't even have the decency to face him, and just sent orders for him to stay still in the tower. It was a house arrest. It seemed his visit to Uchiha compound made some people on edge, so Sandaime asked him to refrain going there. At least no one forbids him from meeting his teammates yet. However, he couldn't stop his worsening anxiety at the current situation. The investigation on the detected intruder didn't yield any result either. Then again, if it was that stray Uchiha, it was no wonder. Against that time-space Manjikyu, any security measure they had now was rendered powerless. His confinement didn't go unnoticed by his people, and they became very aware of unwanted eyes on them. The surveillance on the Uchiha was now also extended to people in the tower. He had heard the whispers, the talks since he became part of the sealing division, but they used to talk in secret, and now they were pretty open about it whenever they thought he was not in hearing range. They were considering returning to Uzushio and rebuilding the fallen hidden village. They were also talking about offering the Uchiha to come with them. Since they were not wanted and appreciated in Konoha, they would do this village a favor by getting off of their lawn. It wasn't like Konoha needed them. The sealing division's main duty was maintaining seals in Konoha, a job that's not easily replaced, but Konoha had some seal masters with no attachment to them like Jiraiya. Konoha one way or another could figure it out, and the barrier team would be glad to see the back of them. Uchiha had most of their duty taken by ANBU, leaving them with menial work like breaking up bar fights. A job all Uchiha told them was a thankless one, and made the civilians scorn them. Both groups also had been pushed to the outskirts of Konoha, so if they were gone, it was not like they would be missed, right? Naruto-sama wouldn't be happy to leave Konoha, Mikumo said with a frown. House host scoffed. Naruto-sama thinks he owes Konoha something. It's the other way around. Konoha owes him. Don't you see how horribly they treat our young master? He can't even walk in Konoha's street in peace. Heated glares and malicious whispers followed him like a second shadow. Forget respect. They didn't even see him as a human being. Kagari shook his head, waving his hand as if diminishing the idea. Our young master is Kyubi no Jinchuriki. It's not like Konoha will let him go. Konoha will put up a fight to keep him. If he is important, they should have treated him better. Takusa, his aide, growled. As happy as I am to go back to our homeland, there is no point if we make Naruto-sama upset, or we force him to go along with our wish. Matsu, a female seal master with auburn hair, shook her head before adjusting her glasses. Actually, Konoha never ever made use of Kyubi no Jinchuriki in battle. I mean, Kushina-sama and Naruto-sama are sent to mission, but not to anything that specifically requires their power as. A scowling Yuzuriha marched towards the group of seal masters from her workshop, followed by Iwafian, who looked exasperated. All of you back to work. What if Naruto-sama hears you? He heard them already. Too late, Yuzuriha. He has a lot on his mind lately. Don't talk about crazy things like going back to Uzushio. The female Shiamitsu growled. Iwafian nodded. You guys are dreamers. It must be nice being young and letting your imagination run wild. Save your imagination to design your seal and look at reality. He told them, Yuzushiogakyure is a ruin now, not a utopia we dreamed of. Think about the danger of traveling in large groups. How defenseless we are when rebuilding, not to mention the political disaster Hakurai-sama and Naruto-sama have to deal with if this foolish plan goes through. Yuzuriha nodded enthusiastically, not expecting Iwafian to back her up. As much as I hate to admit it, we're stuck in Konoha, and our young master is doing his best to make it better. So don't talk about taking him to somewhere that doesn't exist, you imbeciles. Househo raised his hand pleadingly. Chill, Yuzujushin, chill, we've been stressed out lately, so we started talking about silly things. These silly talks better not reach our master's ear, Househo. The kunoichi finished with a hiss. His people were growing discontent, and there was nothing he could do about it. Naruto's workshop. Calloused hand glided across paper as he finished writing a new curriculum for their new batch of students. That marked the last paperwork for today, and he could go back to his research on anti-bloodline theft seals. It was still in theoretical development, but it was progressing much better than his teleportation seal. Naruto sighed. Why am I stuck with a seal that already has successful examples? He wondered to himself. But I'd rather not replicate Hiraition. Sure, he had his pride as seal master, but he was not that inflexible or arrogant to avoid it completely. In the first place, his father used Nidame's original seal and made his own that worked in the same way but with a different formula. Shisui also asked why he didn't follow in his father's footsteps. Thinking up a new formula for a that already exists with a solid mechanism would be much easier. He had two reasons, but he only disclosed one to Shisui. Not that he wanted to hide the second one, but for his father's sake he'd rather no one but him knew why Kiroi no Senku recreated Hiraition. As for the other reason, after he saw Masked Man's time-space ninjutsu that was superior to Hiraition, there was no way he would fall back to Nidame's masterpiece. Naruto gritted his teeth. Father is father, that's why he can win with Hiraition. But Naruto, who was no Yellow Flash, would just lose against that bastard with Hiraition. While his father's prized time-space seal was versatile, it relied heavily on marker seals, and there were dozens of ways to dispose of it. That stray Uchiha already up against Hiraition once. There's no way he won't exploit the seal's weakness when given the chance. Naruto would set himself up for failure if he naively took this path. So in conclusion, Naruto had to follow a completely new time-space seal method. Preferably, a time-space technique that allows as much liberty as the Masked Man's, using a pocket dimension as passage to another location. Compared to Hiraition, it was superior in flexibility, but it was also slower. Itachi and Shisui also agreed with his analysis. Most likely there was a lag in between teleportation that wasn't present in Hiraition. I have the theoretical mechanism down, but not how it could work for me. It was nothing new. In sealing arts there were a lot of theoretical possibilities, including bringing the dead back to live. I am not going to be a second-rate seal master who thinks theoretical possibility means realistic practicality. And got killed when testing said theory? Kurama snidely reminded him that he almost died testing a half-baked seal to escape. That was different. Desperate measures to survive did not account for precise calculation and caution. What differs first-rate and second-rate seal masters was not experience or accomplishment, but their approach to accomplish completion of their seal. He had seen Hakurai throwing tantrums at idiots who couldn't break through third dan level, saying their research was revolutionary at least, but it was all conjectural before it met the cruel mistresses called reality and practicality. I have compiled a lot of materials, including from Uchiha. Even the clan was getting generous lately, though it was just Fugaku secretly leaking clan secrets for him. Well, it's for the sake of finding the identity of that stray Uchiha. A trip to Uchiha's library was proven almost futile, as Fugaku secretly let him know that there was no record about Mangekyo that works as time-space. Tsukiyomi, Moon God's World of Illusion. Amaterasu, Sun Goddess's Eternal Flame. And last, Susanoo, the avatar of Storm God. There were two more modeled after the married gods Izanami and Izanagi, but while the record was vague, it cost the Uchiha their eye permanently, and couldn't be used freely like the masked Uchiha did. Knock! 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 Enter! Naruto barked, recognizing the Hakurai's chakra from the other side of the door. Hakurai opened the door, a stack of paper in his hand. This is from Fugaku. It seems they have narrowed the list down as much as they could. Naruto brightened up at that. Thank you, Hakurei. He took the papers and started reading. Originally there were around 20 or so families in the Uchiha clan, and after tracing their line along with Manjiku's technique known to be passed down in each line, they found 5 lines with unknown manifestation. They narrowed down their suspects to 23 missing Uchiha for the last 60 years, but... He bit his lower lip. You have sent this to Hokage-sama? Last time they had narrowed it down to 50, 23 were still too many suspects. HM? Uchiha Obito was on the list. Naruto couldn't help but feel sorry to see this name here, but they had to be fair. Even if the guy was his parents' favorite. I am really a disappointment to my parents. He didn't grow up to be a cheerful boy who helped old ladies on the street. Heck, he hardly takes a walk in Konoha Street nowadays, and he got in trouble with elderly in Konoha Council. He used to be a happy-go-lucky brat though, at least superficially. Not that he would ever think to be that fake happy child again. Hakurei nodded. I did. Hokage-sama is pleased, but there's no way Danzo is convinced to leave the Uchiha clan alone with only so much intel. If anything, that paranoid bastard would think the Uchiha was trying to divert attention. Meanwhile, I am confined in the tower. Naruto was so angry his eyes flashed the redness of Kurama's chakra. Hakurei did his best to placate Naruto, who freaked out as soon as the order was given. Naruto-sama, calm down. I understand you're worried, but losing your calm in this situation is very dangerous. Hakurei advised. The younger seal master nodded. I am sorry. Looking at his young master, Hakurei could tell Naruto was under great stress. His azure eyes had a hint of gray as if losing its luster, his face was also paler than usual. It was as if the ground under his feet was breaking apart, and he struggled to keep standing. It was not a stretch to say Naruto-sama was not just anxious, he was veering to panic. Could it be? Naruto-sama, did you overhear the idiots in the tower talking about returning to Yuzu? Their young master tensed. Truly he was so good at hiding his emotion, but around familiar people like Hakurei, he was like an open book. Hakurei sighed. You don't have to listen. How could I not? Naruto-sama turned to face him. The boy before him looked frightened. A boy? How long since the last time he thought of his master as a boy and not his lord? Naruto-sama? The idea of returning to a fallen village is foolish. I know that. His voice shook. I know you guys can't go home to Yuzushiogakure. It was no more. However, it didn't change the reality that my people don't want to stay in Konoha. Deep down they want to leave, and what right do I have to force them to live here? What then? Would I have to choose between you, Shiomitsu, everyone in Ceiling Tower, the Uchiha clan and the rest of Konoha? Their master was shaking now. Young master, we won't let that happen. I know you won't, but their master clenched his fists. The day I have to make a choice will come, it will as long as we remain as we are. As they were not truly part of Konoha's great tree, just a stem that was forcefully grafted and unable to flourish. At this rate they would be cut off of Konoha. Naruto's landscape. Breathing in and out, floating on the water listlessly as he pleased was his privilege. His mindscape was a flooded sewer, and he had all the time in the world enjoying this tranquility. This is difficult. I don't feel like moving anymore. I wish I could just flip some table or something. Why did my luck suck so much? If there was a higher being up there, please give me a break. I am 9, seriously, can this stuff wait until my age is 2 digits at least? Why am I always stuck in this kind of situation? Seriously, my track record is terrible, becoming in the first few hours of my life, a pariah, an heir that got stuck in a family conflict with my own village, and don't forget I have a madman that could appear out of thin air anytime going after my life. Why can't my life be simple? Nope, too much to hope that much. Can I have one less trouble in my life? Like not having a dimension jumper after my life while I am tackling our political problem? That's it. Imbecile. Just because I am stuck with you, it doesn't mean you can just complain and whine at me all you want. Kurama roared at him, blowing him in the opposite direction further. You got those Uchiha cousins for that. He pedaled back to Kurama's bar and snorted, why can't you be a listening ear for once? You have a pair of big ones. Giving Kurama's long ears a pointed look. The size of my ears is irrelevant to my willingness to put up with your whining, Naruto. Kurama growled. So your life sucks, Old news as far as I remember since we got stuck together. Life is never sunshine and rainbows like your old self believe. Naruto rolled his eyes. Well, I don't know if I have a dimension hopper after my life before. Kurama lowered his gigantic head, red eyes narrowed at his host. Well, I have to say that Uchiha has means to pluck you off of this miserable village anytime. Thanks for the reminder why I am panicking in the first place. Fear for his life aside, that man was dangerous for the village and Uchiha clan too. So, why didn't he? Kurama's simple inquiry snapped Naruto out of his thoughts. Huh? Why didn't he kill me or do whatever to me for the last 9 years? He asked himself, sitting up on the watery surface. Compared to my mother, who is strong and trained, and under my father's protection, I should be an easier target. Yet, there was no attempt at all. Perhaps that guy was injured from his battle with Yondaime, and just recently recovered from it? No, while his father beat that Uchiha, he couldn't remember if the Yondaime inflicted any injury that could cripple the man to that extent. So why didn't he try anything yet? Even the last confrontation seemed to be something the man had done on a whim. This unknown Uchiha was certainly in good enough shape to beat them up. Not to mention. Kurama, I am not the best person to judge one's sanity, but my gut says that man when confronting us is different from when he faced my father. Kurama growled. Different how? Even if he attacked us on a whim, he seems to be less unhinged than 9 years ago. Kurama stared at him in disbelief. I can't believe you just told me the guy who tried to kill you looks saner after 9 years. I am sure as hell once an Uchiha has gone off the deep end there's no turning back. He had personal experience with Indra and Madara. I don't know about Madara, but Indra he took a hike after father declared he liked Ashura's answer better and came back to start that stupid family feud. And obviously he never came to his senses. It was weird. Weird how? He was the firstborn who thought it was his birthright to be the sage's heir. Kurama rolled his eyes. Naruto, my father preaches peace and harmony, and practices it for his entire life. Having a mother who went insane with power will do that to you. Naruto cupped his chin. I am not so sure myself, but his questionable sanity aside, I can't imagine he let me live for the hell of it. He patted his chest. Even though I'm like this, I'm still an Uzumaki. Isn't leaving me alive to get stronger is an extremely idiotic move? Or at least counterproductive to whatever scheme that Uchiha cooked up. You completely waved off that monkey Hokage's protection could be what discourages Uchiha from taking action. Naruto glanced to the side. I am grateful Hokage-sama has protected me with sincerest effort, but I am not deluding myself to think it means a thing to that stray Uchiha. He gave an exaggerated shrug to Kurama. If that guy wanted me dead, I would be long dead. He was a very self-aware person. Kurama nodded sagely. While he hated weakness, he was glad to see Naruto's change from naive 6 years old to the worthy human who knew his place. Getting killed for naivety was too much, even for him. You're frustratingly weak indeed. Naruto scoffed. I am well aware of that, but it would be also shameless of me to think I can take on a Kage-level shinobi who could fight toe-to-toe with my father at 9, don't you think? So far how he survived against stronger enemies was relying on his teammates, unpredictable tactics, and lots of luck. Wait, his luck sucked in the first place. Then he added, anyway, there must be a reason why he didn't make any move on me yet. He cupped his chin. Kurama, if someone waits patiently from taking what he wants, that's right within his reach. Can't you think of any reason? You're asking me? Indeed I am. Kurama growled. Hell if I know. I have heard of this animal who sleeps and eats in periodic fashion, waiting for its prey to repopulate. Or there's this yokai who waits for a calf to grow before eating it. Naruto rolled his eyes. Intelligent or not, at his core Kurama is still a beast. His only explanation for this oddity is that I am the same as a pig being fattened up. He sighed. I seriously doubt that if he wants to unseal you from me, the vessel, me, doesn't really matter. Why does it matter so much for you? Kurama asked. Naruto's expression looked aghast. Of course it matters. I live in bliss of ignorance all this time, without knowing how easily I could lose it in a blink of an eye if a madman's wills it. It dawned on the fox-shaped why his vessel was so shaken about the dimension hopper Uchiha. It was not so much because his life was in danger, it was never the threat of his life Naruto feared. It was ignorance of his own life. He had lived for 6 years with no idea why he was treated as a pariah, suffering in ignorance and delusion. For himself, what Naruto feared the most was being ignorant again. His fear is understandable. If anything, this tells me Naruto gained something his naive 6-year-old self hadn't. Pride. I will not allow it. Naruto hissed. I won't let myself to be toyed on anyone's whim ever again. Kurama, never again. While Kurama didn't detest pride, far from it, he wondered if Naruto caught Uchiha's germ or something. Then again, Uchi germ or not, Kurama would rather Naruto was like this than that naive kid who would give anything for a shred of attention. This Naruto, who had a healthy amount of pride, was more favorable in his opinion. Kurama! Naruto called for his attention. Where should I start now? Kurama blinked at him and answered automatically in a daze. Survival is the most important, so that time-space technique? There are too many things I have to prepare to achieve something on the level of Uchiha's technique. I am just not ready. He stopped on his track before looking back at Kurama. I see. Kurama blinked. What? Naruto cupped his chin. I don't like this theory, but if we disregard Uchiha's attack during my birth, just assume he was crazy, or just being whimsical. And his half-hearted approach to capture me, he listened, could it be whatever he wants you for is something he is not ready yet? Huh. When he confronted us, he didn't seem to be that interested in catching me. Naruto got stuck in that dimension, but from what he heard from his teammates, that stray Uchiha's main objective was messing with their mind. We're something he can take anytime but not usable yet. Kurama paused at that before nodding. That makes sense, but that guy is still around for. Naruto gritted his teeth. Uchiha clan, because even though the clan is in conflict with Konoha now, they're still part of Konoha. Whoever he is, the blonde closed his eyes and thought. As a proud Uchiha, he must fear his own clan members above all else. Sharingan no Manjikyu Sharingan, from what we see so far, is an unpredictable evolution. 9 years ago, Danzo had foolishly ordered the Uchiha clan to stay back out of paranoia. Whatever reason he had to do such a thing, he took away the chance for Sharingan to help deal with Kurama's rampage. Now Naruto had protection from the Uchiha clan. At least the main family had good relations with him, and KMPF members sympathized with his people. So it was not much of a stretch to think that stray Uchiha wanted to get rid of them. He didn't even have to work hard, just look at how much discord his effortless infiltration caused. By now, that masked Uchiha was trying to kill his clan with a borrowed knife. And said knife was Konoha, or rather Danzo and Konoha elders. Naruto howled, that damned Madara knockoff. Kurama couldn't help but think the irony was exquisite. He had long wished the cursed clan's extinction, and fake or not this Madara was, for his own survival and his vessel's, Kurama had to wish otherwise. He was sure not even his father, sage of 6 paths, would ever predict this kind of situation. The next day, he couldn't get out, but it was not impossible to sneak in his teammates and their clan head to the tower. There was a lot of secret passage, and due to their barrier, the tower was free of Root's watch. Hi's teammates and allies quickly realized how dire the situation was when he didn't even bother with courtesy and his stormy expression. Naruto-kun. Fugaku called him. What's wrong? His grim expression didn't cease as he explained their real situation. The good news, I figured out his motive. The bad news, the target of that stray Uchiha, and desired result of the malicious plot. 3 pairs of Sharingan eyes flared in anger. Even Itachi looked like he was about to spit fire. That's why he randomly appears in their compound for the last few weeks and has an alarming barrier division. Hakurai summarized with a pale face. Naruto nodded, a mocking smile on his lips. He is extremely rotten. The reason he tested Itachi and Shisui is most likely to gauge the highest threat the Uchiha clan could impose on him at the moment. Fugaku turned to him, his anger abated as he looked concerned at Naruto. What about you? Me? Naruto chuckled softly, placing a hand on his chest. I am not so important to him now, as I suppose he just needs me to stay alive until I'm ripe for picking. Because if he died, it would be extremely troublesome, since Kurama would reform in the wild, and the ensuing chaos was not worth mentioning. Naruto said that as if he was insignificant, but it was clear to Fugaku that to this stray getting rid of them also meant taking away protection of Sharingan from Minato's son. Can't we bring this up to Hokage-sama? Whatever suspicion he has towards us should be halted for Naruto-kun's sake. Perhaps to him and his son and nephew Naruto was someone they wanted to protect for personal reasons, but to Konoha he was the cornerstone of power balance in the elemental continent. The blonde shook his head. Don't bother Fugaku-san. It's all conjecture that makes sense to us as targets of this villain. To Hokage-sama, or at least to his advisors, especially Danzu, we're just going to sound like diverting their attention. Yeah. Shisui agreed with a grim face. We're the target, but whatever we say will make it sound like we're playing victim. Not to mention the existence of this masked man is only confirmed by us. Itachi pointed out, could we consent to mind walking of Yamanaka's clan so at least they will believe this man truly exists? Fugaku shook his head, unsurprised his young son was unaware of one tiny detail for once. As a Sharingan user, to an extent we can resist Yamanaka's technique and plant false memories, so it should be Naruto-kun, but he gave a searching glance. Mirthless laughter escaped his lips, which Yamanaka would be idiotic enough to try that even under orders. And risk coming in contact with Kurama? Our Hokage won't order them to risk such a thing either. It was deeply rooted in Konoha that Kurama was an incarnate of malice, so there was nothing he could say in Kurama's defense. He couldn't even say anything for himself as mere vessel, so how could he vouch for the... Fugaku clenched his fist, his knuckles turned white in frustration. I haven't even settled the matter inside my own clan. Now we're targeted by this villain and Danzu, we're not even prepared to defend ourselves. Otosan Itachi glanced at his father worriedly, and that was when Fugaku's eyes were drawn to young boys in the room. They were so young, and Naruto was only 9 years old, and yet he couldn't do anything without them. Why couldn't this old man who should be nurturing these boys do anything for them? He hated himself for being weak, more than Konoha who cornered them to this point of no return, or ruthless Danzu, or the chief culprit Uchiha Madara. At a time like this he wished he could be the sacrifice to Shinigami years ago, and Minato lives. Minato would have protected their children unlike him who was too weak. Even so, as their elder, and chief of Uchiha clan. Itachi, Shisui, get out. He spoke coldly. The two younger Uchiha became speechless. Why? Shisui dared himself to ask. Your clan head is speaking to another clan head, you youngsters should get out. Fugaku said firmly. Now, don't make me repeat myself. Shisui hesitated as obviously Fugaku wanted to speak to Naruto and Hakurei, leaving them out. Itachi stood up and bowed, as you wish, before he dragged Shisui out of the room. There was a pregnant silence before Fugaku broke it, bending his waist as he sat so Naruto and Hakurei, who were sitting across him, could only see the crown of his head and his broad back. My deepest apologies for all the trouble my clansmen have caused over the years. And also for my negligence as a clan head. If only I was more vigilant we wouldn't be reduced to this state. Naruto was shocked. To see an Uchiha and their clan head no less lowering his head was an unbelievable sight. Then again, with a son and nephew like Itachi and Shisui, it was not much of a stretch that deep down Fugaku followed Uchiha tradition as a must rather than something ingrained in him. Uchiha-sama. They were speaking as clan head to another now, so this much formality was appropriate. There's nothing to apologize for. What's happening now is not something that happened because we're ignorant. We've been targeted by power beyond ours, and now we have to think of a way to survive them. Fugaku raised his head, a determined look etched in his expression. Thank you for your kind words, but in this situation let's not bother with such courtesy. He inhaled deeply. Allow me to ask a few questions. Frankly, from Uzumaki-sama's explanation, the order of elimination would be the Uchiha clan first, the tower, and then you. Is that right? Uchiha clan's plan to rebel had already reached the upper echelon of Konoha. No matter how they minced it, there would be a move to eliminate them, who had been isolated from the village. The tower was struggling to keep their power, and after the fall of the Uchiha clan there would be discontent with those who were not integrated to Konoha. It was not much of a stretch of imagination. Sooner or later accusations would crop up for their case. It didn't help that they housed Naruto. His presence alone was enough to sow suspicion. Especially now he was getting more distant to Hokage and Konoha after entering the tower. Once these two groups of people were eliminated, he would be very vulnerable in Konoha. It's all in conjecture. Naruto waved his hand. I very much wish it's just my wild imagination playing tricks on me. They also thought the isolation and discrimination was just their imagination at first, but look at their state now. It's the worst possibility, but I'd rather we're overly paranoid and prepared rather than dawdling. Hakurei and Naruto stilled. They didn't miss how Fugaku's voice dropped below zero as he emphasized the word prepared just now. Uchiha-sama? Hakurei probed. What are you planning to do? From his experience with Shisui's father, when an uchiha was dead set on something with a glint of madness like this was a premonition of catastrophe. Fugaku smirked, a touch of sadness on the corner of his lips. You, Itachi and Shisui are all geniuses. The best in your generation, but for you to overlook this alternative I had in mind says a lot about your inexperience. There was no mocking in his voice as he corrected himself, no rather than greenness, you're all too gentle and kind. He had steeled his heart for years to force his son and nephew forward for the sake of their clan, so they could survive. In the end, he just made them suffer. Uchiha-sama. Naruto was getting alarmed by Fugaku's borderline meek attitude. The Uchiha let the concerned voice wash over him. You brought up the bloodline seal before me. How soon can you complete it? The younger shinobi felt like he shouldn't answer this, but with honor of his clan on the line and mutual trust between them he should. The seal is still at a theoretical level, but existing Kago no Tori works with Byakugan. I need assistance from a medic familiar with Sharingan's anatomy to tailor it specifically for your. You haven't tested it yet? Naruto swallowed nervously. I did on Shisui's and Itachi's clones. Fugaku cupped his chin. It didn't dispel their clone. Naruto shook his head, not right away. He tapped his temple. While Byakugan and Sharingan differ, in essence all works by feeding special chakra that is unique to said clan to optical nerves. This special chakra comes from different source than one we have on the center of our body, so this seal works with simultaneously locking down this chakra source then. If just that with transplant, our would still work, so then Fugaku prompted him. Naruto swallowed. I was curious myself why transplanted works even though it's inferior to original, so I assume there's filter in the optic nerve itself that refine even foreign chakra to make the works. So in order to completely seal the seal have to disable the nerve from transmitting chakra. Fugaku's lips quivered. No wonder this boy was their son. He said it was all still on paper, and yes it was true, but with this solution regardless of how Sharingan works an eye that couldn't be enhanced with chakra will cease to be. Fugaku concluded in a pleased voice. So, how to trigger the seal? Do we have to die first or can we activate it manually? He felt a chill down his spine because a proud owner of shouldn't be this ecstatic at the prospect of ruining their eyes. By right, his seal won't rob them off of their sight, but it still seals their bloodline. I don't recommend manual activation, because this seal works on delicate nerves. Activating it out of free will means overloading the chakra path in your eyes. The last clone of Shisui attempting it blew up like an exploding clone. He didn't know what would happen to real humans, but he'd rather not. But it's possible, right? Fugaku's tone was mild. That sounds like a cheap price to pay to not leave your body behind rather than get mutilated for your eyes. Hakurai looked back and forth between Naruto and Fugaku. You're making my young master uncomfortable. Tell me you're not planning something foolish, Uchiha-sama. Perhaps, my apologies, you and my son are truly alike. He chuckled softly. Yandeme-sama was the same until war forced his hands, and I don't want that for any of you. Fugaku's eyes hardened and declared, now that I don't have to worry about bloodline thieves that would endanger you this matter, could you let us take responsibility? Naruto rose from his seat. A storm-like expression colored his face. What are you saying? I am telling you to cut us off, this clan of traitors, he replied coldly. The trembled in anger and shock. Uchiha-sama, have you lost your mind? If any of you Uchiha with deep resentment towards Konoha wants to go through with your plan, by all means I will cut you down myself. Naruto pointed at Fugaku, his index finger trembling with barely suppressed rage. However, don't forget your actions will implicate your children. Your son, Sasuke, is completely ignorant that his clan is taking a path of no return. How could he do this to that boy? How about other children in the Uchiha clan? They were blameless. The leader of the Uchiha clan just nodded, a satisfied smirk painted on his lips. Exactly, children have no business with adult matters, don't they? He rose from his seat, crossing his arms on his back as he walked to the side of the room. It just so happens we're heartless enough to dump responsibilities on our generous neighbor. Hakurai roared, Fugaku. Cut this nonsense, don't even think about it. Bam! Fugaku rammed his fist on the concrete wall, leaving a fist-shaped indent. This is not the time to be weak-hearted. Naruto-kun might be the leader of the Uzumaki clan, but you're still his elder, Hakurai. I would be damned if I faced your mistress in the afterlife if I dragged her son and the rest of Sealing Tower with my clan. There's no guarantee sacrificing your clan will save us all, you dimwit, Hakurai hissed. Will your clan agree with this idiotic ploy of yours? He ignored Hakurai and asked, Do you trust me? This Uchiha? Naruto swallowed. If I say yes? A pool of ink swirled 3 times in red. Just a precaution. Fugaku! I warn you! The Uchiha grunted. If my clansmen are foolish enough with our rebellion plan, I'd say so. Why don't we just go through with this foolishness on our own and spare you? At least it means something. He wouldn't let Danza have his wish. If they had to die, at least he had to give some discontent to that bastard and pave the way for their children. Naruto closed his eyes, and opened his eyes to find himself in his mindscape but further away from Kurama's cage. Fugaku was inside and didn't even let Naruto speak as he started to lay out his plan in detail, ignoring Hakurai's objection. Fugaku wondered if he had become muddle-headed for the last few years to be so blind to this solution. After all, when Minato ascended to Hokage's throne, he was prepared to be an extension of Minato's hand. He was not apt at playing in the open field of politics, but when it comes to backstabbing and cunning he had a very clear mind. Especially when now he didn't have to fear for his life or his family, everything became clear. Fugaku felt like he was about to lose control of his facial muscle. No, he was already smiling. This way you will have a future, you, my son's nephew. All of you will have a chance. Minato, look! Your son's mind is a sewer. Ha ha ha, if you're here you would be mad with grief. But don't worry, I am sure in that future I would never see he shall thrive. Naruto's bangs shadowed his upper face, his lips pulled to a thin line. Uchiha-sama, you're telling us to trample upon you and your clan for that? Yes. Do you think we will be happy with that? What can I say to Sasuke-kun then? To Uchiha children? He could feel his eyes become hot at the future prospect that many children would have to bury their parents before they came of age. You don't have to tell them anything, Fugaku retorted firmly. Naruto gritted his teeth. You're condemning most of your clan with this. Naruto roared. His eyes flashed as he and Fugaku were back to reality. Then so be it, Fugaku declared resolutely, before he grabbed Naruto's shoulders and forced the boy to look him in the eye. Fugaku! Hakurai hollered. His eyes were a deep pool of ink, not even a trace of red. Listen to this foolish old man's words for this one time. Let me face your parents in the afterlife while holding my head high. Looking at fierce stubbornness still burning in Naruto's eyes, he sighed. Fulfill your parents' last wish. You can't stop here for me and my clan. Naruto staggered backward and Fugaku released him, and Hakurai quickly caught him. Naruto-sama! He panted softly. That's unfair using them like this. Fugaku just smiled sadly. Life is unfair, child. Naruto opened his mouth and gave the Uchiha clan head his answer. I. The Uchiha listened to his answer, dark eyes softening by each word. I understand, then I will go back with my son and Shisui. No. Naruto's words were not loud, but there was unmistakable firmness that left no place to argue. I will tell them myself. I will leave the rest to you, Uchiha-sama. As you wish. Fugaku opened the door, unsurprised to see Itachi and Shisui stubbornly standing on the doorway. Hakurai was a few steps behind him, and followed him out of the room. Get inside and follow the order of your superior. He was handing Naruto authority over his son and nephew. Whatever he says is absolute now. Shisui felt chilled to the bone at that command. That can't be a good sign. Fugakuji can't be up to any good. Ota-san? Itachi glanced at his father's and Hakurai's retreating back and solemn-looking Naruto, who was rooted on his seat, before following Shisui inside and closed the door of Naruto's office. Naruto? Our elders have made their decision. Hokage Tower. By right after checking and reporting to Hokage of his purpose to visit Konoha, Tatsuka Tatara could just waltz to the tower as he pleased. While Naruto didn't have an inkling on what Tatara wanted him for, he was pretty sure he was not asked as a shinobi of Konoha but Uzumaki Naruto of Uzumaki clan. In short, it was a business between his clan and Tatara's master. Konoha and Hokage had no right to meddle as long as said business was not against Konoha's interest, explicitly at least. So when he saw Sandaime with a stern expression and Tatara's carefree smile, he knew this was another test. Tatara could speak for himself to be excused. He didn't have to put up with Hokage-sama holding him back. Yet, he obediently let Sandaime keep him in the office. This was certainly looking for trouble, blatantly showing that Naruto was so powerless even his guest was held back in Hokage's office, and he had to run to pick said guest himself. If Naruto was any other clan head, he would be boiling with shame and indignation by now. Hokage-sama doesn't seem to be aware of this situation. Or rather, because Naruto was too young, the old Kage didn't see him as a clan head at all. Then again, in Konoha he was the only Uzumaki. He only had vassal clans and no clansmen to lead. There was never any formal ceremony to acknowledge his status in the first place. Naruto-kun, welcome. He bowed and inhaled deeply. Hokage-sama, thank you for receiving the guest of our clan on my behalf. He spoke eloquently, before he rose and glanced at Tatara, not even sparing the old Kage a glance. It's urgent, I take it? Tatara nodded, a smile curled up his lips. Yes, Naruto-sama. Naruto turned his attention back to Sandaime and bowed again. Please excuse us then, Hokage-sama. In the future there's no need to trouble yourself with our guest, and once again thank you for your time. Before anyone could respond, Naruto swiftly led Tatara out of the room and ignored the banging sound of fist against wood, most likely one of Sandaime's advisors. That child behaves like he is a clan head, he is getting too arrogant, Kohara commented to her teammates. Hamura cupped his chin. Well, according to law he is. The requirement to be clan head is at least chunin in rank and born of the closest line to the main line. Naruto was at least Tokubetsu Jounin for his skill in Fuinjutsu alone, and he was from the main family of Uzumaki clan. The last known clan head from Uzushio was Kushina's grandfather. Kushina's father and older brother died when Uzushio fell. Kohara sighed. That child is getting discontent with his position. He is just 9 years old this year. Then again, it was undisputed fact by right Uzumaki Naruto should feel that way. He was scion of a prestigious clan and Konoha population treated him as pariah. The boy being civil and still obedient to rules they imposed on him was good enough. Not to mention, for someone of his position to distance himself from the village like this and side with. Enough! Sandaime barked, not another word. Danzo, who had been silent for a while, harumphed. You can't protect that boy forever, Hiruzen. He was aware more than anyone how precarious Naruto's situation was, but there was no way he could tell the boy to discard the bonds he had with the tower and Uchiha. It was stifling to realize how much they underestimate Naruto, and if they earned his resentment. The boy is getting dangerous day by day, forming a relationship with Daimyo-sama's younger brother. Hamura offered his opinion. Hiruzen, I know you have a soft spot for the boy, but you can't be too lenient. Sandaime wasn't blind, and while he was unsure of Naruto's intention, it was not a stretch. Minato's son wanted political power to give himself all the advantages he could get. And? What do you want me to say to that boy? We're his superiors, but his clan business is not ours to meddle with unless it's connected to Konoha's well-being. As a Jinchuriki, he is ours. Danzo reminded them, his lone eye narrowed at their age. Sandaime frowned at Danzo. Don't even think about it, Danzo. If you dare dehumanize Naruto-kun, the consequence would be grave. Just look at their neighbor in Kaze no Kuni. Kazekage could barely control his weaponized son. Naruto served as a mere vessel, never flaunting the power of like others. His mental stability and talent as Uzumaki made it a trivial matter. In the first place, Konoha, unlike other hidden villages, never relies on their. Ah, yes, Danzo agreed, his lone eye rolled to the side. Especially since he is the true leader of Sealing Tower. Hokaru and Hamura's lips pulled to a grim line, as it was no secret to them that Hakurei was just warming that seat. Too dangerous. Sealing Tower. I don't see you bother playing submissive subordinate anymore, Tatara commented as he took the offered seat in Naruto's office. Why? Naruto scoffed. There's no amount of bootlicking can help us now. Playing the charade is just troublesome. Besides, it's about time I expressed clearly that I can take care of my own guests. He was not asking for family properties to be returned to him, just liberty to do his job as clan head. So, is Ayasuji-san sick waiting for me to accomplish anything? Tatsuka Tatara snorted. My master is never a patient one, but because he is so generous he bestows this task for you instead. Tatara tossed the scroll, which Naruto caught with ease before unfolding it. His expression was indifferent as he began to read the secret missive. His right hand spun the scroll to unfurl it further. His frown deepened as he got through all the necessary information. His Highness's generosity is touching, but may I inquire why I get involved in this kind of case? You don't like it? Naruto shook his head and said, If he gives me orders, I will do it as long as it's within my capabilities, but this type of issue should be handled by insiders. Bringing in someone from outside like me would jeopardize the investigation. Don't Ayasu-san know this better than me? The aide of Ayasu suddenly burst into laughter. My master sure do. He tossed another scroll. Naruto juggled the two scrolls, rolling the first one up before setting it down on the table, and unfurled the new one. Inspecting the old Uzumaki seal in the palace? Well, sooner or later the seal would need some maintenance. While the Uzumaki seal was long-lasting, it was just common sense to maintain it regularly even if it was just once in a decade. So this is my cover mission? He held up the scroll he had sealed up again, and raised the first one with his left hand. So, about the other one? Cover mission that explains me wandering around the palace as I please is good and all, but it's not enough to go through trouble with this group. Tatsuka Tatara took a sip of tea that had been offered and said, The first scroll is just heads up for you. Ayasu-sama is not asking you to investigate. Naruto quieted down at that. The investigation is still ongoing. What else is there to do? Unless Naruto wanted to throw Tatsuka off of the tower now, this almost didn't worth all the support he could get from Ayasu. We want you to make this problem disappear. 25th Legacy, A Hint of Storm. We want you to make this problem disappear. That sounded like the unfunniest joke he had ever heard. His lips pulled to a sneer. Ah ha ha ha, I see. He knew what they wanted from him, and he wished he was deaf at the moment. Tatara could read conflicting emotion in his face and said, Once you succeed, your engagement will be formalized to the public. It was already on paper, but when your in-law was a royalty it didn't mean anything until it was announced to their people. He had not met his fiancée yet, but being the sole blood sister of the crown prince meant her position was favorable, and there was no shortage of suitors for her. If today her hands were promised to Naruto, Ayasu could change that with a flick of his finger by the next day. He gave Tatara a wan smile, and paint a bigger target mark on my back? It wasn't worth it unless. And you would be given both power and honor. The older shinobi gave the last push. That gave Naruto a pause, huh? Exactly what he needed now to fend his people from internal strife in Konoha. Naruto coughed. Since the very start he was not given any choice to refuse, and it was hard to refuse in this desperate situation of his. Very well. He inhaled deeply, keeping his voice even. How many people can I take with me? That surprised Tatara, eh? Won't it be fine as long as you bring your prized Uchiha teammates? How optimistic of Tatara to think they could be the solution of all problems. But Naruto was not willing to leave the Uchiha clan on their own for an extended period of time on this mission when their situation was still so delicate. The clan was not a monolith. The majority had now sided with the ceiling tower to be unified with their latest threat, but there were some still bitching about the village's lack of respect. Uncle Fugaku was doing his best, but Sage knew there was only so much he could do to appease his entire clan. Madara's defection ensured the elders collectively had more say than their clan head. He couldn't disagree with them too strongly or risk being alienated. Both Itachi and Shisui were rallying the younger generation of the clan in opposition of the factions supporting the coup, and drawing their hostility so Uncle Fugaku can play the fair clan's head safely. That way, he could prevent his clansmen from doing something rash and simultaneously keeping them occupied. That was Naruto's idea because the coup faction consisted of the older generation and nothing could make them forget like the youngsters telling them no. So Naruto had his teammates occupied as a deterrent to their own clan. I can't bring them along this time, Naruto replied curtly. Sensing a skeptical look sent his way, Naruto added, I can manage without them for this, and my people aren't incompetent. While he relied a lot on his teammates, he was not helpless without them. He shrugged. Fine, then bring as many people as you want. When should we depart? Naruto asked. Tatara smirked. The timing is the essence. The founding day is in a month. You shall depart in 3 days. 3 days of preparation for a month-long mission was cutting it really close for regular shinobi. He was a seal master, so he just had to eat his losses to change his schedule for the next few weeks. Also, the founding day was the highlight of this mission, the peak day, and it gave Naruto so many ideas. It brought the twinkle in his eyes for the first time since they ran into masked Uchiha. And speaking of Uchiha. Sir, aside from my subordinates from the tower, can I bring the escorts I want? Feel free. Tataru shrugged. They will need to pass a background and security check before they're given permission to enter a noble district. Take your pick. Yes, sir. And how many people do you want to bring? Naruto pondered before he decided. The seal created by Uzumaki Mido to protect the noble district of the capital. A dozen seal masters should be needed for inspection and maintenance work. Is that so? The capital is quite peaceful, so the seal didn't really do much work. Naruto resisted the urge to roll his eyes. I wonder why. The Tokugawa clan did a magnificent job keeping their vassals in line and maneuvering against their enemies before they could reach the capital. Tataru-san, since the founding day is in a month, please prepare our accommodation accordingly. My, did you forget you're grounded? Tataru teased. Shall I put a few words for you? I am confined for my safety. I can speak for myself. He had been behaving very well for a month. It ought to be enough. Hokage office. His argument naturally was not so eloquent when he informed Sandaime why he had to go to capital for clan business. Perhaps it was his stress catching up with him, but for Naruto, there was no more time dancing with words against the old Kage and his old companions. Staying in Konoha is not going to protect me. I am not an invalid and still have to fulfill my duties. He told them plainly. The village had zero defense against someone with time-space technique. Not a single one. The guy got into Konoha 9 years ago and again recently. Uchiha hollered, your life is not yours alone, boy. It was rich for Uchiha Koharu to remind about not having sole ownership of their life. Naruto knew that right was forfeit by the first day of his life, even if he was 6 years too late to realize it. I am under order of the royal family. If honorable elders are unsatisfied, please take it up to the lord. Sandaime looked calm, but he could almost hear barely suppressed irk from Koharu and Hamira. This was the problem when the military and monarchy were separated, but the royalties still had authority over them. Konoha was a military organization and a village. They had autonomous rights to a certain extent, but to preserve delicate balance in the country they couldn't go over the vague line of authority between Hokage and daimyo. Especially when the one sitting on the other throne was just a decoration, the one ruling their country was in the shadows. Tokugawa Ieyasu was a dangerous existence to provoke, and Naruto had caught his attention. What Naruto wouldn't give to have the Hokage and royal family to fight it out over him and slowly clap in the background. Shisui would pay to watch that crap, if only it didn't involve a civil war. But that was the idea, wasn't it? Distract the Hokage and council by the possibility Naruto was going to sell himself to the Tokugawa, with Kurama neatly wrapped in a bow as a bonus. Or was Naruto the bonus to the strongest? Now we come as a set. Buy one get one free. Naruto was pleased to hear Kurama's chuckle at the back of his mind. Perhaps one of these days he would snap and give Kurama a go in joining the discussion, potentially giving Elder Uchiha or Mikado aneurysm. Kurama deserved to be heard, especially by the village that forcibly recruited him against his will for a century. Sandaime was reluctant, but he couldn't deny Naruto's words. Keeping him in Konoha was pointless if to that masked man their defense was paper-thin. It was pathetic of him, who had comforted himself for years that he at least could protect Naruto from physical harm. In reality, he was powerless. You may go, Sandaime said with a glint in his eyes, but we're assigning you a new ANBU squad to protect you, and that's final. Not even the Lord can forbid protection details for you, knowing how precious you are. How flattering. Naruto was almost touched. Of course, Sandaime-sama. And you will allow them into your workshop? That startled Naruto, and he couldn't believe Sandaime asked that from him. Seal Master was protective of their workshop, the sanctuary of their pursuit of knowledge. Some Seal Masters didn't even let their spouse intrude. He had heard a story from Hakurai that Sandaime almost had his head caved in for entering Tsunade's workshop in a rush once during her genin days. On the other hand, Naruto could see the reasoning. Even if Konoha had no defense against time-space technique, they at least wanted to prevent his abduction or have someone there to report it immediately. Naruto gritted his teeth and made a compromise. Is it Team Ro? Sandaime nodded, confirming his guess. I guess only Itachi and Shisui allowed would not work. At least 2 more members to work in shifts with them, Sandaime proposed. And you may choose them, that's the least I can allow. So his good behavior rewarded him this much. He can pick a pair of ANBU he can tolerate invading his privacy. All right. Naruto excused himself before the old Kage, and his teammates changed their mind. The ceiling tower. Hakurai had been given a list of members he wanted to bring with him, so they had been informed, so by the time he returned they had been ready. It was nice to see the bright and excited faces of his people. They had been cooped up for a while and a trip to the capital was always exciting. Naruto-sama, it's been a while since we went on a mission together. Takusa beamed as he welcomed Naruto back from Hokage Tower. Yuzuriha, on the other hand, had gloomy air around her, even her smile was stiff. I am looking forward to seeing the capital. This mission was important for their clan, especially for Naruto-sama's claim for a princess hand. I will do my best to support you, young master. Even if he would never be hers, she was just a vassal. Naruto wondered why, since this mission was announced to seal masters he wanted to bring along. Yuzuriha looked downcast. He didn't tell them the real mission, so there was no reason for her to react like this. Yuzuriha. He called her out, making her jump out of whatever reverie she was immersed in. This is your first time in the capital, and in the Imperial Palace no less, but there's no need to feel so nervous. He patted her shoulder in a comforting gesture. I chose you to come with me because you're a very reliable kunoichi and seal mistress, so you should have more confidence. Hi! Naruto never saw the disappointed and resigned look Takusa shot at Yuzuriha, and left the Shiomitsu's sibling straight to Medic's quarter of Sealing Tower. Nara Compound. Hamura Naro Shikaku murmured to himself as he waited for Inoichi to make a move, a shogi bored with ongoing battle that was seemingly in the Yamanaka clan leader's favor. Inoichi nodded as he moved his pawn forward. For one of them to come to Konoha openly and become the guest of Sealing Tower, it can't be just a regular visit. Clack! The sound of a wooden piece hitting the board was clear to their ears. Hamura was Shadow 12 Guardians of Haino Kuni, serving Tokugawa Ieyasu, who was the real ruler of this country. It was common knowledge to high-ranked shinobi like Teichio, their official daimyo was just a figurehead. Clack! What kind of relationship does Sealing Tower have with Ieyasu Dano? Wondered Chuza, who was sitting on the side, watching his teammates and vassals playing shogi. Shikaku exhaled softly as he promoted his piece that invaded Inoichi's territory. Do you remember a famous blacksmith that was also the father of our old friend? He gave a cursory glance towards Hokage Monument, at the last head carving of Yondaime. The royal family owes him a life debt, and even after his passing he is still the paragon for court shinobi. Namikaze Muramasa was a respectable shinobi with a sharp mind, unflinching courage and unquestionable loyalty to his country. He was also famous for his humble personality and soft-spoken even to subordinates. His strength was also unquestionable as shinobi, and he was also a talented blacksmith seal master who created shisui and swords. What was so remarkable about him was also his versatility in politics and wise insight, making him an irreplaceable paragon for shinobi serving the court. However, his fame was limited to the capital and Konoha, and the latter half of his life was spent in a secluded corner of Konoha with his little family. He was also uninvolved with big wars, so his name was not mentioned in historical records. It did not help that he was greatly overshadowed by his own son, Namikaze Minato. The family name Namikaze became synonymous with Minato, and not Muramasa. Nowadays, only Minato's generation still remembers him. From what I can gather, a certain young seal master is paving a similar path. Uzumaki Naruto. Inoichi frowned. Their game was long forgotten. He is young, and considering his status, there's no way Hokage-sama will let him go to serve as guardian shinobi. Naro Shikaku scoffed. That sly shadow daimyo wouldn't incite such a thing. Not only Hokage-sama, but Danza-sama won't be quiet if that's the case. So what's the purpose of forming any relationship with the boy? Chuza asked. Meddling with him will just bring trouble to the boy. Konoha was part of Haino Kuni, but their military power was their own. Jinchuriki, like Naruto, was someone they couldn't afford to lose to protect the balance of 5 great hidden village, unlike what most people believe worth more as a leverage than a weapon. So making a move on the boy was the same as threatening Konoha's interest. It won't surprise him if even their soft-hearted Hokages sent assassins to eliminate Ieyasu for this. Shikaku smirked. It was no wonder his friends didn't see through Ieyasu's intention. If he never met the boy personally, he won't be able to guess either. After all, Minato's son was supposedly just a little boy of their children's age. Our daimyo have no children, and the crown prince is from Ieyasu-sama's line. I believe there are several princesses in the court now. One was the blood sister of the crown prince, and the others were from different mothers. Their bumbling daimyo was a wise man when it came to his survival. He knew he was just a stand-in for his much more competent brother. If the Third War went on longer, a different man would be wearing the crown, but alas, in peace period the royal family knew better, placing a competent prince with brilliant military mind in power. That was why Ieyasu was the one who had the royal branches full of jade leaves and gold flowers, concubines and children. The daimyo, Taichio, only had Madame Shirjimi, whose only child was her furry baby by the name Tora. Was it any coincidence the crown prince's childhood nickname was Benetora? It was quite blatant from the get-go that Ieyasu's favorite child was equally favored by his royal uncle and aunt to be heir. Shikaku shuddered, thinking about the sons pushed away in favor of the incumbent crown prince. He was ideal for an heir, and it wasn't just blatant favoritism he was chosen, but it was still chilling to Shikaku what happened to children who didn't fall in line with Ieyasu's design for their country's future. Potential civil war squashed just like that without mercy, even if they were his flesh and blood. I have met the prince once, and while he was wearing a hat I still see the shade of red we are all familiar with. Red and familiar, they could only think of the beautiful and deadly wife of their old friend. Uzumaki might bear the surname, and technically the only heir of the main house, but he doesn't have red hair. So if he wants to lay stronger claim and revive the clan, he has to marry within his clan. Shikaku whipped out 3 fingers, a daughter-in-law with far more powerful parents, distant enough from Konoha's political influence, and not even Hokage and his advisors could say no. Their eyes widened at the implication. That's a clan affair not even our Hokage could meddle with, Chirza conceded. But he is just a 9-year-old boy and parentless. It was not odd for marriage to be arranged since the child was born, but a parentless heir like Naruto usually wouldn't be considered for political marriage, and one to the royal family no less. That's where you're wrong. Shikaku sighed. Uzumaki is an ancient shinobi family, but their standing fell after Yuzashio's downfall, so I imagine the crown prince and his sister have that as weakness. Not enough to disqualify them from succession, but still a thorn on their side. And how does Naruto-kun fit in any of this? He is the only Uzumaki in Konoha, not a clan. He had vassals of Uzumaki, the Shodame's wife, brought with her, but not his own clansmen. He didn't even have a seat in the council due to this, even though as Chunin and heir he would have been given one. The Uzumaki were a noble shinobi clan, but they had fallen hard from grace due to the destruction of their hidden village. Sandaime wouldn't support it, because that was painting a big target on Naruto's back. The surname wasn't given to Naruto just to hide his paternity, but also because Uzumaki was of higher status than Namikaze and it was a matrilineal clan in the first place. From what Shikaku understands, the plan was always for Kushina to have at least 2 children with 2 surnames to continue hers and Minato's family line. Alas, they only had Naruto. Shikaku answered his friend, Chirza. That's where Naruto's likeness to our old friend came to his favor, for once Muramasa still has great influence as a legend in the capital. He was once offered to marry into the collateral branch of the royal family, and it's a long-standing wish of our royal family. They got the grandson instead, with the bonus of the boy being a and strong Uzumaki bloodline. Is that boy forced into this? Inoichi wondered. He couldn't imagine his sweet daughter at her age would take on political marriage on her own free will. Shikaku scoffed. Well, it's hard to say, but the current political climate is tense, especially towards the Uchiha clan, and Ceiling Tower barrier division pressuring them lately makes it even worse. He concluded, I imagine for that child the missing opportunity in the distant future for love didn't even enter his political equation. They became quiet, and Inoichi looked at their forgotten game. That boy is young but crafty. Uchiha clan and Ceiling Tower won't stay idle either, yet it seems to be rather quiet lately on their side. The recruitment was still ongoing, but he didn't see them putting more effort at it. Who says they're quiet? Shikaku played a shogi piece idly between his fingers. Tying a knot with the royal family means that boy will gain certain immunity against authority in Konoha and some political clout. Chausa frowned at that. The Elder Council won't be happy about that. Also, Hokage-sama mentioned about renewing the Fuinjutsu-based internal security system in Konoha. That had never been done since the founding era because the system had never failed, an absolute defense that allowed Konoha to be not so hidden like other hidden villages, giving them a bigger prospect in business with their openness. Chirza frowned. That strange, our defensive system is already impeccable. Out of all hidden villages, theirs had not been breached since the founder's era. Inoichi nodded in agreement. For what reason do they go through trouble to change it? Such a large-scale project might expose our weakness. Especially if they had to dismantle the current system, not to mention if the result is lackluster in comparison. They're looking at the grim expression on Shikaku's face. Chusa and Inoichi tensed as realization dawned on them. Chusa trembled. It's Hakurai Dano's idea, isn't it? He is the leader of Sealing Tower, but the highest authority isn't his. Shikaku pointed out calmly. Kushina-san didn't hold the post herself either, but in that very tower she could declare black as white if she wished. That kind of authority was no longer present for Akimichi. They were Chozan's vassals but also friends. The poor boy wasn't alone in the tower, but his vassals would never be friends or family. Inoichi gritted his teeth. He is their son. Inoichi's clan owed that boy for rooting out traitors in his clan. This simply cannot be. Shikaku downed remaining tea in his cup to create a pause before answering. It's exactly because he is their son. Have you forgotten what Minato did to end the war? I don't know the boy well, but if there's one thing I am sure he got from Minato, it's his resolve to fulfill his goal. Minato was always a good shinobi, but he became great when he decided to create a way to slay hundreds in a flash, so war ended as soon as possible. Still, he is too young. It's too late to be concerned about his age, it's just a trivial number. Inoichi murmured. He was the one who was personally requested to give the boy some counseling by Hakurai. It yielded him nothing but hatred for himself and the rest of Konoha when he found the boy's rapid aging mentality. So, Shikaku, why are you speaking in a circle like this? What do you want to say? At that question, Shikaku turned to Chusa. We're teammates, friends and brothers, but by pact of our blood we're the vassals of your clan, Chusa. Shikaku. The wind of change is coming. What shall be our stand then? Chusa began to sweat. This was indeed a dilemma. What do you suggest? He asked back. I can't decide this for you, there's no advice I can give. He glanced at Inoichi, who nodded. We will follow your decision, Chusa. The Akimichi clans had bit his lip before declaring, I respected Sandaime-sama, but his tolerance for Danzo has gone too far as of late. They all already knew what their clans wanted. That was an understatement. Danzo was pardoned after attempting an assassination on Hokage a few years ago, and recently was a kidnapping attempt on Kyuubi's. The latter turned out well to help several clans who had their members corrupted by Danzo's ideal, but the good didn't outweigh the bad. In some way, trying to monopolize the was far more sinister than assassination attempt on your Kage. It was a silent declaration that you were preparing for war, and went against Konoha's policy regarding their. Uzumaki Mito made it clear after her husband's death, she was not going to repeat Madara's mistake by bringing the Kyuubi to the battlefield as a weapon of destruction. Kushina too was no different. She was in the front line as Seal Master and Kunoichi, but never as a. Danzo was always dissatisfied by this because other villages had no restraint when it comes to their, but he never acted on it until Naruto. So I believe to maintain the peace we fought so hard for, we will side with whoever is opposing Danzo. Chusa declared. As if it's up to me, I don't want Chuji to see war anytime soon, and I don't want Minato's son to follow his footsteps. They all winced in unison, thinking of their late age. Minato, as the strongest in their generation, was pushed especially hard during the war, and their friend didn't devise the best strategy for mass genocide to force the war to end quicker because he wanted to be the butcher of battlefield. Minato was the hero of Konoha, but on the flip side he spilled more blood than anyone else in that battlefield. He also lost his genin team. After the war ended, one could argue if he had a surviving student at all in Hitaki Kakashi. The kid was the poster child of his subordinates in the T&I division, handling the yearly psychological evaluation for a reason. God knows how much that part of his division gets ignored, to the point even Tsunade-sama had given up on them. Inoichi tried, but the kid was one of their best shinobi, to the point nobody wanted to acknowledge his problem. Inoichi until this day was still haunted by the conclusion that Hitaki was doing his best to keep living, mostly to ensure the gift of his friend didn't rot like the rest of his body. And there's Minato's son. Inoichi would like to think the boy was nowhere as bad as Kakashi, even though his crazy brilliant side from both parents was a bit too strong at times. The boy had ADHD, which was normal for Uzumaki's main line, but keeping it in control with Kage Bunshin. Who knows, being a workaholic who kept his mind occupied 24/7 could spend all that excess energy he had. Counseling didn't really work out, though the boy compartmentalized his issues too well for shinobi his age. Apparently having a tenant meant compartmentalizing came naturally for him. Inoichi didn't think this was what Minato ever had in mind for his son. Chusa's fear was not unwarranted. In fact, Inoichi could already see the boy going down the same path as Minato if war ever graced their border once more. Then again, perhaps the boy was already in war all his life. Hidden dimension, Kamui? It was hard to keep his emotion in check nowadays. Few real people in this doomed world he treasured seemed to be doing their best to destroy themselves. While he did unleash the Kyuubi and cause suspicion upon the Uchiha clan, he didn't expect Konoha to be this self-destructive after Yandame's death. It took time, but the destruction Uchiha clan was heading to was obvious to all, because the clan couldn't stand being a caged beast eyed by the upper echelon as a dangerous entity within their own village. It was bound to blow over sooner or later. The Uchihas were also stupid enough to not have the brain to set their pride aside, too blind in spite of their so-called all-seeing eye. Worst of all, they relied heavily on prodigies from the younger generation to uphold the clan's reputation, as if producing better shinobi for Konoha could help their standing now. The plan was always to get rid of the clan that could get in the way of their plan for peace, but he had delayed for years. He could make do by sparing a few contingency plans Setsu had approved. Shisui. Itachi. He had doomed them with ideals for peace. Itachi even carried his old dream that would never be fulfilled. Uchiha for a Hokage, you're not even part of that teaching lineage. These kids were never easy even since they were young, too smart, and kind with talent that doomed them. He couldn't be there anymore for them to be kids, give them candies, poke their foreheads and cheeks, couldn't shield them from the clan's expectation and ambition. So the kids grew up and became the prodigy the clan wanted, doing their best to appease the growing resentment of their family. He was especially furious to know the kids had been brought to the battlefield for practical lessons as soon as he was no longer there to make a stink out of it, no student of Yellow Flash that could tattle to his sensei. The fury he felt back then was incomparable, because now the same stupidly genius kids decided to rally and provoke the stuffy traditionalist elders of the clan to distract them from rebellion. While Danzo lurked in the darkness, eyeing them and the clan hungrily. If only he could be there all the time. He grasped his chest, feeling the jolt of pain that diverted him to not be distracted from the plan, and returned to Kiri and played Mizukage. Please, please don't be like her and become the martyr for that worthless village. Survive and greet the dream world where peace truly exists, please. Nobody heard the prayer of a man almost completely engulfed in darkness, in that world of infinity. Ceiling Tower, Medical Workshop 013. Unlike the hospital, the medic quarter was a cluster of workshops for SEAL masters whose focus of their research was body enhancement sealing arts. It was not limited to the medical field alone. Like a generalist, the SEAL master specializing in this was a minority in the tower. Something Naruto would like to change in the future. Naruto-sama. Welcome to my workshop. Akari was a fair-skinned SEAL master, with rose-colored hair tied in a ponytail. The coloring, according to Akari, was because of thin Uzumaki blood running through his vein. Wearing one-sleeved white kimono, black gloves and elegant geta, this medic painted a very flamboyant character, especially with half-lidded eyes. Have you finished studying Uchiha records on their anatomy? Akari nodded yes. Mikoto-sama is a very resourceful kunoichi with expertise in her clans even after retirement, so there's no trouble for me to learn from the record with her assistance. Naruto smiled. Thank you, Akari. You're as reliable as ever. Such a competent subordinate. As a leader, he couldn't be happier with someone like this in his command. However, as swift as a wind, Naruto pushed away the face with puckered lips that got too close for comfort. Akari-san, please restrain yourself. Akari harumphed. I just want a little reward, Naruto-sama. I will reward you in any way I can, accept that because I don't have that kind of interest. He pressed his hand on Akari's forehead, and since the medic didn't budge, Naruto reached out blindly and pushed Akari's chest with his other hand. Kia! Naruto-sama! Naruto ticked. Akari, I won't comment on your hobby, but can you please stop stuffing your chest? You're a man after all. Akari stiffened. Naruto-sama. I am a genuine lady at heart, even if my body betrays my womanly soul. No good. There was no room to argue with this guy on his supposed femininity, or how he was born in the wrong body. That's right, Akari, one of their best medic SEAL masters, was a trans, and a beautiful one with no slightest hint of his real gender. If one didn't look closely at his Adam apple that was covered by a turtleneck shirt, and the bulge on his chest was padded. He also had a bad habit chasing cute guys and asking for kisses as payment for his medical service. After the first meeting with Akari, either Itachi nor Shisui dared to come anywhere near his quarter. There was even one time Shisui and Itachi jumped off of the window when they sensed Akari's chakra signature approaching Naruto's office. It was not like Naruto couldn't understand their fear for their chastity, and Akari really needed to be reminded that shinobi or not his teammates were minors. He shouldn't go overboard with the teasing. Whatever you say after we finish the seal, there will be a line of Uchiha clansmen to have this seal engraved in them. Shisui included. Akari's eyes were sparkling as he licked his lips. Naruto gave the medic a warning glare, "Don't do that." Naruto-kun. He turned his attention from daydreaming transvestite, and was faced by smiling Uchiha Mikoto. "You're back. Did Hokage-sama give you a hard time?" He shook his head. "No, he is always lenient when it comes to me," Naruto said. His lips formed a restrained smile. "It's alright." Mikoto glanced at Akari, who was shaking his head and sighing. "Yes, it's alright," she agreed, keeping her reluctance to herself. "We just have to be more patient." "How is Shio-basin?" Naruto asked about Mikoto's aunt, who would be a temporary patient in their infirmary. If there's anything she needs, she can ask Akari or another medic in the tower. The Uchiha matriarch laughed softly. "Naruto-kun, my aunt is very comfortable in her room, especially with so many people taking care of her. She is almost afraid she would be spoiled rotten during her stay." "Is that so?" Naruto was slightly relieved to hear that, even if it was just lip service. "I am glad to hear that." No matter how they put it, this Uchiha elder had volunteered herself for their experiment. She was the first sacrifice to pave the path to the future. This was why he hesitated so much to start this project for real since he got the idea, because it requires a human subject. Mikoto just nodded. His aunt was prepared and even overjoyed when she was told about this experiment. "Naruto-kun, it's getting restless in Konoha now. It's just a small ripple, but some members of Konoha upper echelon have been told about Sealing Tower's intention to renew the internal security system." She relayed her husband's message, as lately their interaction with the Sealing Tower had to be limited and careful. Akari, who had adopted a serious look, scoffed. "The smart ones would realize our intention quickly and make their stand known soon." The mother of Itachi smiled at that. She was getting increasingly fond of the eccentric medic. "I am sure the Hyuga clan would be as aloof as ever. They distanced themselves from political matters in Konoha as if it was beneath them while keeping a close eye. That was Hyuga's policy. I am not sure of Aburame and Akimichi. The four noble clans of Konoha held sizable political power in this village. While they had to go through Hokage, their sway wasn't insignificant. But since they owe Sealing Tower, Akimichi owed them as an extension of the Yamanaka clan. They should have sided with Sealing Tower. That was what everyone hoped." Naruto hated the contingency plan, even more so since the Uchiha clan's leader lowered his head to ask for it from him. The next day, Team Ro would take over his guard duty and Hakuriai's son, Shion, arranged an introduction. Unlike in his childhood, Naruto had to be aware of his protection due to threat from rogue Uchiha. Preferably they could guard him from the shadow while he went on with his days in bliss. But alas, the rogue Uchiha was perhaps the greatest kidnapper in the world, so they need to work together to face this threat. Also, while Sandaime gave him the choice, it was obvious he knew who Naruto could trust to invade his personal space, the workshop. Naruto knew right away it wasn't just because of Itachi and Shisui. The two had long been floating in ANBU because Sandaime dawdled putting them in ANBU team after team 2. The latter was in charge of a delicate mission internally, which would satisfy the Uchiha clan's ego but at the same time less stressful to shinobi as young as Itachi and Shisui. Team Ro was perfect because the captain was an honorary Uchiha and student of Yondaime, but his team was assigned to the fiercest mission, being a heavy-hitter team. That changed when Sandaime decisively assigned them to Naruto due to the active threat of a rogue Uchiha. No mission could be more important than protecting their and the village from the man who can just waltz in and cause untold amounts of destruction. He was also a nice bait, so he was put with one of the strongest teams against the rogue Uchiha. Damn, the ego boost is really nice. Hokage-sama changed his schedule and planned drastically just for my sake. There was certainly no plan before to put Hatake Kakashi anywhere in Naruto's vicinity, even if it was as an ANBU. Shisui grimaced. "You're not in a good mood." Unlike Shisui's understatement, Itachi looked at him with obvious worry in his dark eyes. Naruto was very regretful that the line in Itachi's face deepened again, and here he thought their friendship and fun time together managed to ease it. Are you alright, Naruto? We can still ask for a different team. Do you trust another team that's not Team Ro? Itachi looked down. I know Team Ro, I know Captain Hound. Exactly. Naruto shook his head. I am not unhappy with Hokage's choice of team, I just realize I don't have privacy anymore. And he was no longer a kid who didn't feel the need for it yet. What's left of my privacy is inside my head. With Kurama's company. Did I imagine those tantrums you throw in front of my cage for the last few weeks? Is that even privacy? Shisui wondered out loud. Naruto gave him a look. Kurama is my precious friend, but since he has been there all my life I kinda forget there's even a boundary of privacy with him. Screw you, brat. And maybe I will get used to them sooner than later. He could always live and adapt. Half an hour later, they held a meeting with all seal masters who would follow him to the capital. An ANBU with a canine mask and another with a feline mask entered the meeting room. They knelt before him reverently. Naruto thought he was used to the formality, but it was still uncomfortable when he knew the identity behind the mask. Still, this was someone precious to his father, and came for his protection. So Naruto did his best to welcome this person to his life. Hello, I am Uzumaki Naruto. I will be in your care from now on. His Jika Tabi felt oddly stuffy today, and he resisted the urge to fidget under their stare. Naruto shouldn't have, but he felt the seal of Satori loosened, his control faltered for a moment, and he felt the brush of chakra from the two ANBU. Hound's thought drowned every noise in the room, and Naruto was quite bemused by how unsettled the ANBU captain when all Naruto had done was just introducing himself. That was a terrible cocktail of nostalgia, guilt, anxiety, and also horror. The last one was really hurtful. The ANBU had not said a thing, but Naruto was already offended. One thing for sure, this person had not moved on. He had some of his father's memories. From the seal malfunction he barely had new ones nowadays, but when it comes to Hatake Kakashi it was relatively the same. Namikaze Minato was always worried for the boy, from 6 to 14 that never ceased because the broken boy he cared for was shattering and he couldn't keep Kakashi whole. Even now, it was Naruto not Minato looking at ANBU who was no longer a teenager. The memory of worry and sadness echoed strongly in him. How sad, he blurted out, and the ANBU jolted as if Naruto had struck him with right on when all he did was look, but it was enough. Are you alright? He shouldn't have, but that line was sparsely used by his father, because Hatake was allergic to it, but kept playing on repeat for Hatake Kakashi. It was quite an awful start, and Naruto didn't think they would ever get used to each other anytime soon. The ANBU straightened up but didn't answer his question. I'm Hound, captain of Team Ro. We will be protecting you under the order of Sandaime Hokage from now on. He introduced himself. Well, he supposed nothing had changed from what his father last remembered of his only surviving student. He had met the guy before but not as Yandaime's son. How differently the man acted was concerning. He almost missed the cat's introduction, and how the man revealed he had Mokutan, and Sandaime specifically ordered him to inform Naruto. Perhaps another olive branch. The man was openly putting another person as a leash and protection for Naruto from his prisoner. Shodai's I see, that's reassuring. Naruto responded to Kat, the vice captain. Do you have any questions? Kat asked. Hakurai sighed. Nobody from that wretched experiment from the beginning of the Second War survived, so it must be Hiruzen's wayward stripling. Both ANBU coughed. Masked elite of Konoha or not, they were caught off guard by how Hakurai addressed Orochimaru of Sannin. Hakurai ignored them all and pushed some coins to Shisui, who was watching the spectacle beside Naruto and Itachi with glee. There. Why the money? I owe Kagami money every time Nidaime's irresponsible project comes back to bite us in the future, and since he believes I will outlive them all, the money goes to his kids. So Shisui got it. Shisui, with all the grace of an uchiha, grinned. Sweet. Laugh it out, brat. I am in my 60s and we still don't have undead apocalypse because of Edo Tensei. If by my 80s we still don't have any, I win and your entire bloodline would be in debt for that one. Hakurai shot back. Itachi looked confused. What's undead apocalypse? Hell if I know. Kagami said someone might declare a war with the dead as their army because of Edo Tensei. Tobirama-sama was not amused. He smiled at the memory. Silly Kagami, the harebrained ones of your clan have great imagination. and I suspect that's why they're so good at Genjutsu, Sharingan or not. Aside from the pushover Yandame took as his student. Naruto noted. Hound tensed again. A good kid, but damn, he was dim. Shisui came to his cousin's defense. He wasn't bad at it, he just doesn't like it. He is actually better at it than Katon actually. What? That was Hound. What? Itachi echoed back. Is that a secret? He asked Shisui. Shisui shrugged. Yeah, you're too little to remember, but we promise not to tattling how he aced every animal-related mission like dog walking and cat searching. They ignored how Hound had leaned forward, and there was a small scowl before he regained his composure. Naruto supposed there was an old grudge over a certain uchiha cheating with on those D ranks and never told his secret. Itachi's eyes widened. So I wasn't dreaming that one time he made that cat stand on their forelegs and dance. Some of the best memories about his cousin felt like a dream. That one is real. Shisui confirmed with a frown. Now I think of it, Nissan was quite scary. I can never really figure out that makes people do crazy stuff to that degree, and that's without sharing. Naruto cleared his throat. Ahem, Shisui, Itachi, we can talk about that later. They were distracted by nostalgia and Naruto was happy for them, but Hound looked like he was going to get a seizure from information overload. Naruto figured the man was shocked how much he didn't know about the boy whose eye was on his skull. Then again, his own father had kept that to himself because Uchiha Obito was weirdly aversive about his talent, and had been the one giving tips to Shisui when he was younger. They were all sitting in chairs, but those in guard duty would be standing. Naruto gestured to them to stand behind him with Itachi and Shisui, and they readily followed. He felt their relief, while he did his best to not fidget over having unfamiliar people guarding his back. He began briefing his team about their mission to the capital. As you all know, we're going to be under the employment of the royal family for 1 or 2 weeks depending on the condition of the seal system our ancestors left in the capital. Naruto began with a smile on his lips. Your good work in this mission would be a lifelong debt for me. Naruto placed a hand on his chest in dramatic fashion. Because I have to make a good impression on my future in-laws. At that, the seal masters in attendance laughed in response. Naruto grinned at them, inwardly complimenting his subordinates for playing along with his joke. Truly, for this young master to marry above his station, he has to trouble his people. His future in-laws are also so demanding. He mused on, pacing back and forth on the podium as the 4-man team watched him with rapt attention. Because before getting married to the family I have to work like a draft horse, but I don't see the carrot yet. Tatara, who was watching on the side, raised an eyebrow. He knew his place, but must he say it out loud like this? I don't even know what the princess looks like, so I have to suck it up even if she has thick lips or a large mole. Your grievance is noted, Naruto-kun. Tatara chimed in, but believe me, your princess has outstanding looks. Or even if she screeches like a banshee. I have never heard milady screech. Which means you have no idea how she sounds when she does. True, but... The back and forth loosened the tension, and Naruto continued the briefing with the logistics of their mission. Where they would be staying in the capital, the expected schedule, and also side duties of attending social functions and expanding their social network. All in all, it was not a bad first day for the new bodyguards. After the meeting ended, Naruto let everyone but his team and bodyguards leave the room first before he addressed them again. Your hands, please, you need my chakra trace to access my workshop. Cat readily gave his left hand and Naruto just tapped his palm, leaving a red spiral mark. Hound, however, he reached out, but Naruto had to hold back a wince with how the man almost jolted with slightest physical contact. The deliberate slowness when withdrawing his hand was not helping either. Naruto cursed inwardly, Father, your student is not fine and I don't know what in the world would make it better for him. Namake's Minato's idea to place Hatake in ANBU was not without reason. He wanted to have full control of the boy's mission and kept him close. He also wanted to validate the boy's diminishing self-worth, but it all backfired and the Yandame was not even alive anymore to force the boy out of ANBU. As it was, unless something drastic happened, his father's remaining student was not going anywhere. He supposed the best he could do now was keeping Team Aro in this guard duty as long as possible. What happened to not liking ANBU on your back 24/7? Kurama asked. One look at your father's puppy of a student, and you surrender your privacy? This brat is older by 13 years than you. You shouldn't worry about him. What happened indeed? Naruto just discovered he wasn't as indifferent as he thought. It was his father's influence, he knew, but Naruto was never good at being cruel to anyone. The day of departure. Tatara never protested the new security detail Naruto got from Sandaime. If anything, he approved. It's warranted, however there would be issues if all of your members are in the shadows. There was a growing tension with court shinobi and Konoha shinobi lately, simply because ninja could be very territorial. Konoha shinobi were loyal to their village and Hokage first, but the court shinobi was loyal to their lord and second to their country. Naruto's lips curled. Alright, I suppose that would be an issue. The court shinobi despise having ANBU in their territory, especially since just recently Danza sent his route to the capital. What should we do then? Tatara's suggestion was simple: have the captain and vice captain out of their mask and be regular shinobi for the duration of this mission. Being seen would be a deterrent for Team Ro to try anything like secret mission if Konoha assigned any. There was none, of course, but the point was to pass Team Ro as painlessly as possible to roam the capital while guarding Naruto. Naruto shrugged. I don't mind, the decision would be on Captain Hound and Hokage. Hound was obviously reluctant, but he sent a summon and the dog returned with Hokage's approval. It was very cunning of Tatara to bring this concern up at the last minute. He forced the Hokage to make the decision to appease the court and keep his people around Naruto. Having this done so close to departure meant there was no time for the council to argue keeping the ANBU in mask. Naruto had the direct order from the Lord to fulfill. He could leave Konoha without them to follow his tight schedule. Half an hour before departure, Hound and Cat returned and now dressed in Konoha's standard uniform with green vest and headband. Naruto felt sorry for Hatake because the man felt even more anxious without his mask, which was weird because he was still wearing a cloth mask anyway, and with that slanted headband, they could only see his right eye. He was more exposed by 15% at best. Cat, the vice captain, had borrowed Hatake's cloth mask so only his dark eyes could be seen. That works. Tatara beamed. Let's depart. They made their way to the gate, and Naruto was not surprised to see them waiting at the main gate, or rather sensing them hidden beneath. The Chunin in charge of gate duty didn't even notice. Then again, the two of them were users of the highest caliber in Konoha. It had been a while since they decided on this desperate measure, even going as far as keeping distance with each other. Naruto-sama. Takusa called him, who had stopped walking. Naruto craned his neck towards the gate. Go ahead, I will catch up soon. The seal masters exchanged glances before nodding and wordlessly went ahead to process their pass to the Chunin in charge of gate duty. Naruto stayed still, his lips moved silently, forming parting words to his friends. Then he followed his subordinates out of Konoha and disappeared amongst the lush forests surrounding Konoha. Two pairs of sharing and eyes memorized that last word and nodded to themselves. Live. He didn't ask them to be careful or to make sure to succeed, it was just one simple word. Above everything, he wanted them to live. Such a tall order from their young friend. The capital was a day of walking distance by shinobi standard. It didn't mean they wanted to rush non-stop. They were not bound by deadline anyway, and reaching the capital at night would be undesirable. So the plan was to camp at night and continue the journey so they reached the capital the next day before lunch. This is fun. I am so glad my skill in camping food has not been lost. The retired kunoichi beamed. Squirrels are as good as I remember. Even if they're small, they're fat with nuts, so their meat is sweet. It's good. Naruto agreed with a smile. The herbs work so well. Naruto-kun, please give me the sapling next time. Her dark eyes glinted with mirth. The ones I grow taste blander than the ones you keep. Of course, Mikoto-bazin. Anokat spoke up, his eyes twitching. I don't remember leaving with us. It was not just her. Uchiha Sasuke, an academy student, was also stuffing his cheek happily beside his mother. There was also Uchiha Taiki and Uchiha Urashi, spooning up food for the rest of the team. There were other Uchiha, civilians and retired shinobi. Not many, but they made up about a dozen. Ma, don't think too much about us. Eat up our, it's good, offered Taiki-san. Hatake Kakashi hit it better, but the 1,000-yard stare spoke so much. Does the Hokage know of this? He asked Mikoto. The Uchiha matriarch's smile was beautiful. I am on reserve, Hatake-kun. I only have to report if I leave the country. a trip to the capital to accompany Taiki-san and Yurichi-san to the branch store of Uchiha Senbei is hardly something I should trouble the administration office with. Naruto hid his laughter by tipping his bowl up. Our dango is good too, so Ijimi-san is also opening a branch in the capital. Hatake Kakashi turned to Tatara, lone eye narrowed. They're civilians, are they not? What's with the look? Hatake-san, the crown prince likes the Ndango Uzumaki-kun sent, so here we are. Naruto pointedly didn't meet Hatake's lone eye, because he knew he was not getting away with this after the mission was over. But that would be future Naruto's problem, and it was a good move. Besides, he behaved for a month and a half and complied with the house arrest. If the Hokage and his advisors couldn't be happy with that, he would give them legit reasons. It was a good motivation to not fail the mission from his father-in-law. He had made his move, so he couldn't back down. The next day, Hai no Kuni's capital, Oof. As soon as he stepped inside the capital, Naruto was assaulted. His subordinates twitched, their hands hovered dangerously over their weapon pouch before stilling as they took a good look at the one who attacked their young master in an affectionate back pat that was a little rough. Yo! What's with the stiff face as soon as you arrive in this bustling capital? Naruto rubbed his sore back bemusedly. It's been a while. He stopped when he saw a panicked look on the crown prince's face. Benny-kun, come over, I have a new flavored dango on sale today. A middle-aged dango seller woman called out from her stall. Tora-chan. A group of little children ran over. Don't forget your promise to come with us tomorrow to fish crayfish. Tora-kun, can you help me hang my shop sign? It fell down again. Naruto watched the supposed crown prince dart from one place to another like a busy bee, sending a brilliant smile that shut his eyes closed to the crescent moon. Ah, not again. His teachers back at the palace must have had a fit that their prince was mingling with peasants and playing around. That person is Yuzuriha, trailed off. Why is he here? The crown prince wandering around the outskirts of the capital, what a strange sight. Naruto nodded to confirm Benetora's identity. I'd say he is playing around as usual, but who knows? Anyone with a drop of royal family in them couldn't be a simpleton, though the one sitting on the throne now was a simple man Ieyasu controlled from the shadows. Then again, in the era of peace, someone like Ieyasu knew better than to stand in the spotlight and incite conflict. The daimyo himself was also aware that was his value, playing a good seat warmer to protect the peace. Nobody in that family was simple, even the scaredy cat wearing the crown. That was the crown prince? His father's student asked thoughtfully. Apparently the man would talk voluntarily in the name of gathering intel. Benetora, or more commonly known as Tokugawa Hidetada, was the crown prince. He was politically active in assisting his uncle in governing, but he was socially absent. He avoided noble gatherings and showed his face in public, so even Konoha was not that well informed about the heir to the throne. Konoha stayed out of the succession battle in court, but they couldn't just stand on the sideline without a clue either. So it must be frustrating to have someone so accomplished but also low-key as the heir like Hidetada. The most important to Konoha was to know about the temperament of their next ruler. A laid-back and submissive one like Takechio, the current daimyo, was easy to serve, but they had to adjust for the next generation. Yes, he is, Naruto confirmed. He goes by Benetora. He acts like that but very serious about his duty when he has to. I see. I think Hokage-sama's son can tell you more. They were pen pals, but Naruto wouldn't claim he knew Benetora more than Sarutobi Asuma. Or perhaps not. History said the Sarutobi used to serve the rival clan of Tokugawa. Even if that was forever ago, they could distance Asuma from directly working for the heir. Naruto supposed it was also why the royal family, while cordial, was not very close to Sandaime. He imagined the royal family didn't really agree with Nidaime's choice. I am on duty. Naruto huffed. I won't die if you step away for an hour. That was the wrong thing to say. The Anbu went stiff and his lone eye narrowed. Let's go. He wondered if he should curse his father for dying before sorting out this kid out of his depression spiral. Later. It was easy to enter the palace for him with basic inspection as usual. The same couldn't be said to his first-time visitor team. They had to go through troublesome procedures on identity check, weapon check and health check. The last one was especially important, as apparently during his grandfather's era there was a plague that broke into the palace unchecked. In his case, though, it was quite pointless because he never got sick aside from occasional headaches from memory overload. Uzumaki in general was a very healthy clan even without Jinchuriki status boost. They were a clan of longevity and vitality after all. Which explained why Ieyasu took in an Uzumaki woman as his consort. He didn't like to think his clansmen as top breed stock, but to royalty their genetic makeup was ideal. Naruto couldn't begrudge his mother's third cousin who entered Ieyasu's harem, because it was her marriage that gave shelter to several members of Uzumaki clan. Not to mention her son was the crown prince now. Politically speaking, this was an ideal situation for his clan to get a stronger hold in Hai no Kuni. Another reason why this engagement should be formalized at all costs. Currently Ieyasu held the position as proxy leader in place of his deceased consort of Uzumaki clan in the capital. He couldn't even see his clansmen until he was formally acknowledged as the official leader of the Uzumaki clan. Imagining just how much stake this arranged marriage holds is just depressing. Naruto couldn't help but think bemusedly. This proves just how powerless I am. Outside of the ceiling tower I have zero political power, forget capital. In Konoha he was still a pariah. His Uzumaki ancestors must be rolling in their grave if they knew what became of the sole heir of the main branch. Doesn't waiting suck? Benatora asked, grinning from ear to ear. Your face is so gloomy. Hidetada Denka. Naruto began. We're alone, so it's Benatora. He corrected Naruto. Naruto glanced to the side. In his room the two A and B were standing at the back with eyes unmoving from him. And then at Mihiro, the kunoichi who was in charge of Benatora's safety. In the room it seemed like there was only Naruto, his two A and BU, Benatora and Mihiro, but this room was actually quite crowded with the combined number of their bodyguards in the shadows. Naruto sighed, giving Benatora, who for once dressing like a prince, he was in dark red hakama. The traditional color of Hai no Kuni and his Uzumaki clan's signature coloring made him very, very red. Unlike most nobles, Benatora wasn't as pale, so the excess of red wasn't so bad. Right, Benatora. He gave in. I don't mind waiting, but delaying work makes me restless. He snorted. I see, you have all the right to feel restless. Yeah. Benatora's slit-like eyes opened. Well, all I could say is good luck and get along well with them, will you? Who? The 12 Guardians. Benatora's smile was all teeth. That would be part of your job. He was right all along. Uzumaki blood or not, Benatora was a royal through and through. Getting along with the 12 Guardians was cruel and underhanded considering the mission the prince's father hoisted upon him. There was a storm brewing in the capital. Team Rose Barak. There was a new assignment for Team Ro, and it was a long-term internal mission no less. Kakashi was surprised there wasn't any for his team. The last time he had one was guarding pregnant Kushina and later guarding their son very briefly. A mission so close to home and long-term was either infiltration or security, and Kakashi was right on the mark. He and his team would be put on escort duties for Kyuubi's for an unspecified duration, and Kakashi was unsure what to feel about it. On one hand, he would no longer neglect Sensei's son and be able to care for the boy in some capacity, but at the same time he would be watching from close distance and witness the misery this village put the poor boy through. It showed Kakashi the ugliest side of his own village. They were worse than trash, abandoning the hero who had lost his entire family by the first day of his life. It wasn't like he expected the villagers to worship his teacher's son, but a common decency to treat him like a human being was the least Naruto deserved. Regardless of Kakashi's personal feelings, he would do his duty. It was only in team briefing, Kakashi found out he had lost track of his sensei's son so much to the point he didn't even know the kid was no longer in academy, and was in the same team as Itachi and Shisui of all people in the rank of regular ninja corps. Like any good ninja, the pair of Uchiha had not said anything about it. Guarding a Chunin, Hyuga murmured softly. Wow, this kid is almost as impressive as Itachi. He made it to Chunin through expertise in Fuinjutsu. How did that even work? Ko, one of his subordinates, wondered. Kakashi answered him, those considered mid-level experts in Fuinjutsu rise to the rank of Chunin by default. It's something established by Shodame's wife and the first leader of the Sealing Division. So a seal master can just bypass the Chunin exam? The Kapini nodded yes, but they can also make the choice to join the exam and refuse the promotion through Fuinjutsu mastery. It's what Yondaime did because he wishes to fight in the front line, and so he needs proper assessment for his ability in other aspects, not just Fuinjutsu. Tenzo chimed in, The promotion makes sense though. Seal Master caters to the rich who can afford their service, and they travel a lot outside the village. Being a genin would not work for them in the long term. That makes sense. With chunin rank they're free to take missions unsupervised outside the village. Genin rank was restricted, especially during the peace period. They needed supervision of jounin or chunin to take missions outside the village. Also, seal masters tend to be in positions of command in missions that require their specialties. Kakashi looked at Naruto's file again and held back a sigh. Seal master rank 5 going to 6 soon and a chunin. Yugao asked. A shame Itachi and Shisui are not in, but how impressive is rank 5 seal master really? Silence filled the room and Kakashi was surprised once again. He was the only one in the know. Ma Jiandane was a rank 9 seal master, the highest qualification as expected of an Uzumaki, Kakashi supposed. He is 9 years old. Tenzo whistled, chunin and could easily be Tokubetsu jounin in a few years. Yugao frowned. He didn't take a lot of missions, less than chunin on average. Is it because he is a specialist? Didn't seem that eager for promotion, unusual for a prodigy. Kakashi didn't miss the discreet look Komori shot in his direction. Kakashi hoped it was a good thing. The boy wasn't that desperate for a quick promotion in spite of his record. Kakashi supposed Naruto wouldn't be in a hurry to acquire his Tokubetsu jounin rank. Also, a specialist could be quite distanced from the regular chain of command in Konoha. Ibiki and Enko, for example, could give orders to ANBU when needed, and Kakashi himself had taken orders from a seal master and medic Nin on a mission before. It was a good mindset to have, to not bite more than you can chew. Kakashi had been the very opposite, and was born in a time of war that allowed for fast-paced promotion. Looking at Naruto's file once again, he was genin at 7, so about 2 years of service, and by quick calculation Kakashi believed Yugao was correct. It was indeed not a lot of missions he had taken, but the rank tended to be higher than average, more B than C with occasional A, Kakashi noted. Also normal, seal master can get by selling their seals so they don't have to take regular missions to fill their pocket as often. Kakashi knew firsthand that in spite of their frugal lifestyle, his sensei was rich. Or it's due to his other duty. Kakashi tried his best to not react to someone's snort, likely Tsuru at the back. It was Konoha's policy to not use Jinchuriki in the front line. Kushina-san was active, but she didn't use her tenant's power excessively as far as Kakashi knew. He had no idea about Naruto, but sensei gave him a different seal than one Kushina had. Then again, with his talent, Kakashi could see Councilman Danzo being restless about wasting the boy's potential, growing on his own. Team 2 was in charge of him until their demise. He knew ANBU mission was classified and noticed the team was gone, but he wished Sandane would have told him that Naruto lost his escorts within the village where he should be safe. There were even several kidnapping attempts foiled by Itachi and Shisui, nothing serious except for one. The file tried to be vague, obviously hiding the culprit, but Kakashi was no beginner in confidential speak. There was internal conflict over the boy was ambushed on his way back from a mission. To be exact, his team took a detour to check on an archaeological site which was already permitted by the Hokage. So Danzo had tried. Perhaps Kakashi shouldn't be surprised. The man had tried to poach Kakashi from Hokage before and only gave up because Kakashi was firmly loyal to Hokage. The man would want to control Naruto too. At least I would be there to protect him this time. Hokage's office. Sandame had called him into the office and revealed more recent missions not yet recorded in his file, and perhaps never would be in record for anyone with clearance lower than ANBU captain. Naruto should not have any like that in the first place. Kakashi was disturbed, but he couldn't dwell on what had passed. His heart almost stopped when he saw a rank turn S rank in the report. What the hell, a chunin who was not part of ANBU but a specialist became part of a double mission to root out a traitor? This mission could be easily passed to ANBU, but it was given to regular shinobi. No, both Itachi and Shisui were in ANBU, so it wasn't really unreasonable. If he could make a guess, Naruto was allowed to tag along to be more vigilant to his fellow shinobi. It made Kakashi wince, thinking Naruto's closest friends were both uchiha, and thus it was no wonder he was deemed too careless around the clan in general. Whatever the council had in mind, this mission didn't go the way they expected. It was a partial success. Mukai was dead and the mission scroll was retrieved, but there was intervention from foreign shinobi. There was a note that said Kakashi had to go to Hokage personally to be briefed on the unknown enemy they had to protect Uzumaki Naruto from. Kakashi wondered whether it was Danzo or the Uchiha clan themselves. Not a lot could get past the barrier. Kakashi was no stranger to being called directly for a face-to-face meeting and receive direct order. It would be the most sensitive mission, or Sandaime wanted to give him a choice about said mission. In this case, it was the first. There was a threat too dangerous for his teacher's son to be spoken about through written letters. He was not prepared when Sandaime told him the uchiha who unleashed the Kyuubi had confronted Uzumaki Naruto's team, and the boy almost died. The only consolation is that this masked man is not going after Naruto specifically. He came across them in the middle of the mission and decided to check on Kyuubi's and his uchiha teammates. The tone Sandaime used, the emphasis on the clan's name, made Kakashi suppress a shudder. Kakashi didn't know what consideration Sandaime had to form a three-man cell team consisting of 2 uchiha and an Uzumaki, but it was obvious what was the logical conclusion one would come up with. Protection and control. Shisui and Itachi were both the most talented uchiha prodigies in their generation. Their lineage was also very ideal for the position. Itachi was the heir of the Uchiha clan and son of Uchiha Mikoto, Kushina's close friend, while Shisui was the grandson of Uchiha Kagami, Nidaime's student. Considering the suspicion upon the Uchiha clan at the moment, they were the only uchihas that could be fully trusted with Naruto's safety. For this rogue uchiha, the team's composition was obviously made with him in mind. A pair of uchiha's finest to counter an uchiha, and that was an open challenge he would not overlook. What was meant to be protection became a glaring target on Naruto's back. Kakashi was terrified for Naruto, but also uncomfortable. Sandaime also had them around Naruto for a leash. That never happened with Kushina. She had A and BU squad guarding her but not teammates for anything but comrade. Even though Kakashi liked both Itachi and Shisui as comrades and subordinates, he found himself despising the idea they were never real teammates like Obito was. Kakashi almost flinched. His sensei and Obito would be so scandalized by the idea of this team existing at all. This masked shinobi is revealed to be a user of time-space technique, one superior to Hiraishin. What? Sandaime explained that, like Hiraishin, it was sealless, but there was no need for a seal formula to mark anything. There was a pocket dimension, and Naruto-kun was held hostage against his teammates within it. Kakashi knew the existence of pocket dimension in theory. It was how storage seals work in the mystical realm of summon. However, one owned by an uchiha was something else, and terrifying to even comprehend. Naruto described the realm as an endless void cubic world. He even secured a sample of the surface he landed on, which apparently required considerable strength to break. The material was apparently unknown and declared alien in nature by the analysis team. To be captured by your enemy was one of the worst fates for shinobi, but not hopeless. However, where was the escape when one was stuck in a different plane of existence? Naruto is safe in the village now, isn't he? There would be a panic within their rank if it disappeared, and Kakashi doubted Shisui and Itachi would be as composed as the last time he saw them. Sandaime smiled proudly. Naruto-kun has matured, but he is never one to stay still, so he took the matter into his own hands. He shook his head. He is the pride of his clan, and so of course he already has the theory of Hiraishin and time-space seal in general in his repertoire. He just never put it into practice. He was forced to try it to save himself, so he was not used against his teammates. Kakashi was more terrified than proud of his sensei's son following the man's footsteps. He might be a half-baked user, but Kakashi knew it was recklessness of highest degree to attempt that. Even Kushina-san said being an Uzumaki would not excuse you from using untested seals in the field. Naruto-kun survived the botched teleportation seal he devised, but he was heavily injured if not for Kyuubi's healing. His voice was hard. He was halfway recovered when he made his report, and his teammates. And since the boy was a seal master, obviously he was aware of his status and betting on it to make up for his recklessness. Sandaime's message was clear. Naruto could escape this rogue uchiha by himself at a cost, and so there should be no next time. Sandaime also never gave confirmation of Naruto's safety, because the boy could be taken from Konoha. Even at this very moment, he was still not truly safe even behind their wall. His teammates are very distraught and admitted they're over their head against this rogue uchiha. Hence once again an entire squad was given the mission to protect Uzumaki Naruto. Now there was an open threat. Well, Naruto-kun is not happy he is pulled out of the active roster, but I told him about Team Ro's new mission. Sandaime sighed. He is a chunin, and it's absurd to confine him for safety. That sounded like Kushina-san's son rather than Minato-sensei's child. His reasoning is very sound, though Naruto-kun believes it didn't matter because someone with that level of time-space technique could waltz into Konoha or the ceiling tower whenever he wants. Kakashi agreed Naruto was right, but it was incredibly disheartening. How matter-of-fact the child could be about his mortality, or the lack of his village's protection for his person. Any question, Hound? Would he be cooperative? Kakashi had guarded Naruto's mother, and she was nice about it because the one watching was Kakashi, and she was pregnant. She had sharp senses, so she didn't tolerate most of her ANBU watchers. Sandame's smile turned amused once more. He is no longer an overly active child who would run from his ANBU guards, Hound. He exhaled deeply. He is actually a joy to escort, the Kage assured him. The boy is cooperative, has a neat schedule, and very aware of dangers to his person. I see. I will also formally transfer Itachi and Shisui to Team Ro, but they will still act as his teammates in regular force. Is there any other concern? May I speak as Hatake Kakashi? At Sandame's nod, he took a deep breath. Why did you let Naruto graduate so early? And giving him teammates several years older, why not those closer in age? Kakashi had been a personal apprentice of Minato-sensei until he was placed with Obito and Rin at 10, they were just a year older. When Kakashi was young, he foolishly assumed older ninja as teammates would be better, but it was horrible for him. Those older remembered his father, and tended to be biased against him. They more often than not underestimate him too much. For all his arguments with Obito and Rin's crush on him, they both would defer to him whenever sensei left him in charge. While ninja was expected to adapt, during your formative years it was for the best to have teammates closer in age. Itachi was 4 years older than Naruto, Shisui was even older. Even worse, Itachi's brother was Naruto's age, so it was unlikely the Uchiha's heir viewed Naruto as an equal teammate. That was bound to cause an issue, especially without an instructor to supervise them. A position that was technically unneeded in the team. Kakashi knew Shisui would be as soon, and Itachi just didn't bother since he was busy with ANBU. Naruto himself was taking his time judging from his record, but the boy was obviously Tokubetsu Jounin material. Kakashi had seen Itachi's record and how his sensei didn't know what to do with him, no more than academy instructors do when it comes to mentoring the prodigy. Naruto's own record with mentor figures was not very stellar either. Worse, the boy might develop a bias against long-term teachers in general. Sandame frowned. Naruto had nothing more to learn in the academy. It's one of many failures of mine I owe to that child. When he has proven himself a capable seal master apprentice, he earned his chance to leave the academy. Leave not graduating. Kakashi recalled his 5-year-old self graduating and leaving the academy as soon as possible after his father's fall from grace. He was qualified for early graduation, but Kakashi could hardly deny it wasn't just because he could. Naruto didn't have a disgraced father, and he wasn't an antisocial child who didn't want friends either. The child he knew desperately wanted friends, but he was also of Kyubi. Kakashi could easily imagine a bright child who was fed up with the academy, with nothing to learn and no friends to stay behind for either. Itachi and Shisui are his friends, they truly are. The Hokage was firm on this. They're as thick as thieves, easily a team with the best relationship I have the pleasure to see in Konoha. Kakashi wondered how much he could believe Sandame. He trusted the two young Uchiha as his junior and comrades. He could even say he had some fondness for them because they still remembered their Obito and Ii and had repeated encounters with them in front of Obito's empty grave with flowers and dango. In ANBU they could ignore the discomfort, but not so much in front of Obito's empty grave when the eye was still in his skull. But to believe in them with that child was difficult. When the majority of your village had one turn on your father, and then your teacher's wish, Kakashi didn't have a lot of faith in goodwill. Being in ANBU was not helping his skepticism. Sandame smiled sadly. They inherited the will of fire like your teammates, and my old friend, Kagami. Kakashi just nodded. As usual, beneath the veneer of a kindly grandfather, Sandame was quite a manipulator. Told him to trust Naruto's teammates, because they were Obito's baby cousins. Still, Kakashi held back the chuckle of how indignant his old teammate would be that Kakashi would ever suspect Itachi and Shisui to be anything but perfect angels. Shut up, Obito. They grew up and are no longer the chubby-cheeked kids you spoiled rotten with gifts from grandmas. They're proper shinobi that can kill with dango sticks if they want. Obito wouldn't care and flipped him a bird in their defense. Ceiling tower. It had been years since Hatake Kakashi saw Shiamitsu Hakurei, Kushina-san's vassal and a comrade from Sandame's generation. The young Shiamitsu by the name Takusa, like any Yuzu native, openly looked at him as if he stank. Which was familiar. Kushina-san used to give him that same look whenever little Kakashi was being a jerk. The boy still brought Kakashi to his granduncle's office, and Kakashi wisely called out before he could be rejected. "It's me, Hakurei Dano, it's important." The door opened, but he was not let in. The old man took one look at Kakashi's face and scoffed as if he was a petulant child who forgot his curfew. "Did you get lost or something? The memorial stone is in the other direction, Kakashi-kun." He supposed after almost a decade of no contact, Hakurei didn't have any pleasantries left to spare for Kakashi. His father had been friends with this man's son, so he was familiar with the Shiamitsus. Kakashi recognized the man with thick hair wearing an apologetic expression behind Hakurei was likely Uncle Shion. "Sandame said I should inform you that my team will take over Naruto's guard duty from now on." The implication was obvious. They would be in contact and had to relearn tolerating each other's presence. Report received. The door was slammed to his face. A few moments later, Uncle Shion opened the door for Kakashi again and apologized for his father's behavior. He left Kakashi to his own office, and Kakashi decided he should take his chance with his father's old friend instead. "How are you, Kakashi-kun?" he asked kindly, still looking apologetic. "Ma, I'm fine." Kakashi lied through his teeth and mask, because he was apparently not as indifferent as he thought about old family friends and the closest figure to a father-in-law his teacher ever had. Either Obito and Rin would have been so much better in dealing with strained relationships like this, especially Obito, who was always a favorite to elders like Hakurei. The old seal master had more than once warned Kakashi's father about his ridiculous record-breaking promotion, and how there was nothing to be proud about a snot-nosed brat sent to the battlefield. Shodain would roll in his grave at the sacrilege. The same warning was told to Minato-sensei when Kakashi signed up for Jounin's qualification, which was totally not Sensei's fault because Kakashi felt ready and very stubborn about it. "Do you even understand the burden you sign up for with that new shiny rank?" That ended up haunting him for years to come, because his first mission as was a disaster to no surprise of many, but they still didn't expect Kakashi would get a teammate killed. Obito was dead and he had a new eye in place of his father's broken tanto. That blade was forged by Hakurei, and one of his masterpieces. Kakashi had given it back to Hakurei in shame, as the blade was too early as much as rank was. Kakashi never looked back for that tanto, Shirashi. After a long stretch of silence, Shion asked, "Kakashi-kun, do you want Shirashi back?" The cup of tea almost slipped from Kakashi's fingers. "No, Shion-san, that blade is not for me." Never had. He felt unworthy of it as much as he did Obito's eye, but the blade could be left behind as it was not planted in Kakashi's skull and held no promise. Shion shook his head. "Father was never angry in the first place over Shirashi. He was angrier with himself and your father. The blade couldn't protect you." "The blade broke during the Kanabi mission, Shion-san. The blade is not guilty, it's in the name in the first place. It's a blade of pure white will, and I was always wavering whenever I wielded it. No wonder it broke. The blade could only be as sharp and unyielding as the wielder." Silence fell between them, and Kakashi wondered what else he could say. "Thank you for arranging my father's funeral for me." Kakashi wanted to hit himself for starting with that. Then again, he couldn't let this tension fester, not if he wanted to be around Ceiling Tower unhindered by his unresolved feelings for its residents. "I am sorry I yelled at you." Kakashi had been a very angry child in the aftermath of Hatake Tsukumo's suicide, and the Shiamitsus had been very patient with him. They managed to get the Sannin to attend the funeral, made it a spectacle to honor Tsukumo in a desperate attempt to get the people to forgive and move on because the man died to pay for his failure. Kakashi was too young at the time to understand. Their effort was more to lessen the stigma on Kakashi than for his dead father. Kakashi was furious because his father made the mistake, and the Shiamitsu made a grand stand on the eve of the Third War to defend him. The child he used to be couldn't handle the anger and grief, and how they tried to convince him to not be angry at Tsukumo. They had to give up guardianship over him, as willed by Tsukumo's suicide note, because Kakashi rejected them. So they roped in Sandame to assign Minato-sensei to take him as an apprentice, who couldn't refuse being saddled with a kid because he was courting their lady. Then again, his sensei was also too nice. He felt so alone back then, but he had people who cared to protect him after his father's death. Sandaime had revealed the arrangement made for his sake by the Shiomitsu after Sensei's death, but Kakashi was too ashamed to face them. Even now, that didn't change. You don't have to be sorry. Kakashi was a shinobi, but he would always be Tsukumo's son to them. I should be sorry for being such an ungrateful brat. Not just for yelling at his father's funeral. And this idiot will be frequenting the tower from now on since my team will be watching over your young master. He would be an eyesore even if he did his best to stay out of sight. Shion just sighed. Kakashi-kun, you were hurt, and you have all the right to be angry at the world back then. I am still sorry. You're forgiven, Shion said with a smile, then offered an olive branch that made Kakashi's inside twist. Do you want to meet Naruto-sama? Your team would be protecting him, and that means access to his workshop. Shion shook his head, knowing you will make the process easier, especially if you want to be the other pair allowed aside from Itachi-kun and Shisui-kun. Now? Shion smiled sadly at the look on his face. Our young master is not big on formality, but he is very protective of his time. That reminded Kakashi strongly of his sensei. Only Itachi and Shisui can drop in unannounced. Unless it's an emergency, he is very stubborn about interruption. He is focusing on several seals he wanted to complete before the end of the year. Shion told Kakashi, there should be a downtime tomorrow. I can arrange for you in the afternoon. I believe we would be having a briefing with the team he would bring to the capital right after. He would see his sensei's son soon. You don't have to worry, Naruto-sama is a very kind person. Then Shion began his incessant bragging about Minato-sensei's son, nothing important for a bodyguard to know but enlightening nonetheless. The next day. Azure-colored eyes and bright yellow hair like a canary, as someone described in the past. The striking coloring the boy inherited from sensei, but everything else was Kushina's. He was a boy that seemed to personify the sun on the clearest day in summer. His smile, however, resembled neither sensei nor Kushina. Hello, I am Uzumaki Naruto. The name they had chosen with care, the maelstrom that protected Kushina's fallen homeland and the main character of Sensei's favorite book. I will be in your care. There was that smile again, beautiful, polite, and pleasing. Kakashi's eyes wandered to assess the boy, the person he had to protect from now on. It was necessary to profile him right away, so he could form the best plan of protection. Kakashi suppressed his urge to grimace when he saw Naruto's overall appearance. The boy was wearing a high-collar shirt with flowing sleeves that was traditional to Uzumaki clan with the spiral symbol on the right upper arm, dark orange, knee-length pants with crisp cut, and clean white jikatabi. Then it clicked in his mind, He was dressed in a way that was pleasing to the eyes, not for shinobi for nobles, catering more to their refined aesthetic than shinobi's brutal practicality. Kakashi had once asked Kushina why several seal masters in the tower dressed beautifully unlike a shinobi. The redhead had to explain to Kakashi that some of them worked closely with nobles and had to cater to their beauty standard, and she was so glad she didn't have to. Kakashi had been learning the fundamentals of back then with her and sensei. She gave him a strict warning. It was almost the norm to work closely with nobility for seal masters, but there was a tendency for those missions to easily cross dangerous territory. Shinobi's life and danger went hand in hand, he had argued back then. Kushina didn't laugh, and enlightened him that danger was not always a simple threat against your life. Uzushio didn't fall just because several great hidden villages banded together to attack them, and Konoha was too late to save them. Uzushio held too many secrets close to their heart as a village full of seal masters, too many connections with nobility but none of the loyalty. Kushina had to accept the downfall was never the matter of if but when. Kakashi always hated missions that involved nobility. It was always hard to end those cleanly, even if you accomplished the mission. The one that marked his father's downfall was also one, and it resulted in the Third War. And now Naruto was obviously at the thick of it. Are you alright? And from his mouth came the most hated line Sensei sparsely used because Kakashi would always clamp up if he asked. He was not alright. At the privacy of his mind he could at least admit it. His internal libido was hollering at him to stop freaking out like a paranoid bastard and look their sensei's son in the eye. The kid was alive and whole, so don't scare him because Obito and Rin weren't there to soften Kakashi's edge. Naruto didn't look scared, he was sad and looked exactly like Minato-sensei whenever he caught Kakashi washing his hands excessively. I am Captain Hound, in the name of Sandaime we will protect you from now on. He introduced himself to divert the topic. Now, both his inner Obito and Rin were exasperatedly telling him to not ignore a kid who was worried for him. He made the worst first impression, and both Kat and Hakurai swiftly ran an intervention to dissolve the awkwardness. Tenzo revealed his Mokuton, which should be helpful for Naruto but mostly without the Senju's heirloom owned by Lady Tsunade. Hakurai had the gall to reveal a decades-old running bet between him and Uchiha Kagami, and the money goes to Shisui. He is dim. Kakashi knew provocation when he heard it. An insult to Obito was a sure way to spark his temper. However, before he could react, Shisui came to Obito's defense. What? Is that a secret? Itachi wondered with a wide-eyed expression, and Kakashi could see the cutest little cousin Obito speak of whenever he mentioned Itachi instead of the talented prodigy that intimidated at least half of Team Ro. Shisui shrugged. Yeah, you're too little to remember, but we promise not to tattling how he aced every animal-related mission like dog walking and cat searching. Kakashi then remembered the utter humiliation in their D-rank days, for team bonding, that Obito got a wolf hybrid dog owned by a civilian to behave for their walk, when the very same dog outright hated him and his pack. He knew animals liked Obito, but he was never bested when it came to dogs until that day. That son of Obito, you lil shit! You cheated! His 10-year-old self scowled at the back of his mind. But more importantly, Obito was always talented in. It was news to him, and likely he was the only one in the team who didn't know. There was no way Minato-sensei didn't notice, and Obito told Rin everything. He could understand Obito hating any form of mental manipulation with his straightforward personality. Well, personality and talent didn't have to go together. Even Shisui was more well known for his skill for Shunshin than Genjutsu, even though he was absolutely more devastating at it. And apparently the kid was taught by Obito how to weave so finely, it was hard to notice. Then again, Kakashi never really knew Obito until their last mission together. He was always more and never less. Naruto loudly cleared his throat and said, Ahem, Shisui, Itachi, we can talk about that later. Then he added, we have a meeting in 10 minutes. And just like that, the guard duty began, and Kakashi made himself the emotionless shield and sword, standing behind Sensei's son. The boy fidgeted a little when he did, a new presence to turn his vulnerable back to. It felt just like yesterday. The toddler knew they were around and felt safe. That wasn't the case anymore. This was a shinobi who didn't like unknown people behind their back for an extended period of time. As you all know, we're going to be under the employment of the royal family for 1 or 2 weeks depending on the condition of the seal system our ancestors left in the capital. Naruto began with a smile on his lips. Your good work in this mission would be a lifelong debt for me. Naruto placed a hand on his chest in dramatic fashion. Because I have to make a good impression on my future in-laws. That was new. Kakashi knew the boy had a connection in the court of fire country, but not the how he was making them. Even among shinobi, arranged marriage was not uncommon, especially in a more traditional clan like the Hyuga and Uchiha. Naruto's parents had married for love first and foremost, even though it was politically ideal for Sensei to achieve his dream. Naruto didn't even know the girl at all. However, judging from his casual behavior, the boy was likely raised by the Shiomitsus with more traditional values than Kushina. They had moved on to talk about the logistics of their trip and also people they would bring to the capital. It seemed the choice had been made, but more than needed because they had to ensure the tower still had enough staff after a decent chunk of their human resource was brought out for a long-term mission. Kakashi was not surprised at all when an argument started because they couldn't reach a decision everyone was happy with. The ceiling tower, for all its lofty status, was not occupied by quiet and studious folks. Hakurai, the leader, let them scream it out at each other. Cheyenne, the vice leader, cleared his throat. This has gone on long enough. Look at the time, we have to come to a conclusion so we can get back to our work. Let's just vote. But sir, we have decided to go with the majority rule if we don't come to a conclusion by 2 p.m. Cheyenne reminded them firmly. Naruto chimed in, as you say, Cheyenne-san. They all turned to him. I will go with the first option, it's more efficient. We will be pushing it for a bit, but the Lord would be pleased for sure. He casted his vote. Hosho's concern for the social season in the capital on the eve of Founding Day can be handled by Iwafune-san. Iwafune, an old-timer Kakashi recognized from his father's generation, groaned. Sure, I will get my contacts from the capital. He obviously didn't want to work that much, but order was order even if it was phrased like a suggestion. Kagari, a seal master around Kakashi's age he believed must be distantly related to the Yuhi clan from the Red Eyes, sighed loudly. Why didn't you volunteer from the get-go, old man? And just like that, all of them fell into place. Was it a majority rule at all? From what Kakashi saw, their way of meeting was basically discussing several alternatives until they came up with a compromise everybody was happy with, but if not, Naruto got to decide and they would defer to him. It wasn't the most efficient leadership, but it worked for them. With that, our meeting is concurred. Dismissed. Yes, sir. After the meeting, both he and Tenzu received the mark of Naruto's chakra in our palm. It was quite an adorable symbol, to be honest, but Kakashi was startled when their palms made contact. Naruto acted so mature, but his hand was still small and warmer than adults. This person, no boy, he was 9 years old this year and already a chunin. Just like Kakashi back then. Kakashi wondered if this was how Minato-sensei felt when looking at 5 years old Genin Kakashi. In his defense, 9 years old Kakashi was a chunin but spent most of his days bickering like brats with Obito and giving Minato-sensei early gray hairs, not catching attention of nobles. Naruto's workshop was an organized chaos, just like both of his parents, but not completely. There were research papers piled up but marked meticulously with sticky markers. There were colorful highlights he remembered Kushina favored everywhere. There were large and long tables, sturdy and made of wood in U-shape arrangement that gave the seal master as much room as possible for large scrolls, sheets of papers, and writing supplies. The wall was bare for most part, and there were several shelves of what Kakashi believed were seals Naruto was working on or finished products. There was also a smaller room connected, which Kakashi believed was either a pantry or more storage. Kakashi also couldn't help but note the room was bigger compared to the workshop his teacher had at home. Perhaps around the same size as Hokage's office. The ceiling was also high, the signature of Yuzushiyo's and Amigakure's architecture. When Kakashi looked up to check the lighting and windows, he was quite confused to see a mezzanine floor in a half circle about 4 meters from the floor, absolutely filled with greenery, and there was a door and window there too. Itachi and Shisui noticed him staring. Of course, he wasn't trying to be subtle about how he and Tenzo were taking in the room arrangement for escape route and possible ambush, as pointless as that could be with an opponent that could just pop up anywhere. Itachi answered, because Naruto had disappeared with Shisui to a smaller room. That's the door leading to Naruto's quarter and personal greenhouse. Itachi explained, there's a daybed there, and sometimes he takes a nap on that terrace. The windows are warded with seals, so it's just skylight. There are more than just security seals over there. Naruto recently added a seal that detects space distortion. Itachi told them, it's not perfect because the person we faced before is very good in controlling the distortion, and it's not sensitive enough for the delicate control the enemy is capable of. Kakashi didn't even know there was even a seal capable of that. If Namikaze was not a heavy hitter, his sensei would make a career as an infiltrator from Hiraishin alone. Time-space technique was an unexplored realm beyond the storage scroll. Also, didn't this kid just have his first encounter with that rogue a month ago? There are also seals that filter the sunlight so it doesn't harm papers in the workshop. Itachi finished the explanation about the extensive ward within the workshop. The personal quarter is of course part of our perimeter for guard duty, but please avoid the cluster of plants Naruto has. Huh? Itachi's eyes narrowed dangerously, not a threat towards them, but Kakashi swore he was not imagining. The stoic Uchiha air was shaking a little. They're part of Naruto's longest-running project, and it's best to give it a wide berth, especially if Naruto is not around to save you. Save? Why would they be in need of saving in the first place? Just stay away from them, especially ones that have teeth where they shouldn't be. Since when plants have teeth? Naruto returned to the main workshop with refreshments, which Kakashi wanted to refuse until he saw the clear glass teapot and cup and then the color of the supposed drink he was offering. The drink was the same color as his eyes and there was an unfamiliar scent in the air. Here you go. We call this drink Naruto's eyeball made with his tears as the main material. Shisui explained with a grin. Naruto nodded. Yes, my tears. He deadpanned. Before Kakashi and Tenza could respond to that bizarre explanation, Itachi chimed in. They're joking. As if an explanation was ever needed, it's blue matcha imported from Suki. Itachi, why are you explaining the joke? Shisui protested with a pout. Why would you joke with Taicho? It means to be icebreaker, geez. Itachi looked around and in a smaller voice asked, Are we awkward? Remember, the fun tea is out for conversation starters. If not, Naruto will just brew the old boring tea. But the fun tea. Naruto's left eye twitched, sure sway. Don't confuse Itachi, you know fun tea is our code word for spiked food. Then he added, and Itachi, just eat the dango. Kakashi should be amused by how the three of them didn't act like their age wasn't pretty far apart, and how they were truly friends with their bickering not when he heard spiked food and code word put in the same sentence. It implied they were familiar with that kind of sabotage, in peace period in regular force. Should we be wary of poison? Jinchuriki can shrug off most poison due to their tenant, but he remembered Kushina protesting it didn't mean she was fine being poisoned, and the detox process was not always pleasant. Naruto sighed, not in the tower. During my regular mission with nobles, poison is a common thing. Kakashi didn't relent. Specifically? At worst, attempt at bloodline theft usually. Naruto was smiling, eyes closed because he didn't want to meet their eyes. He knew there was that kind of risk with the job, but Naruto was 9 and in the peace period the kid shouldn't be aware of that kind of danger yet. He shouldn't fend off that kind of threat from his own clients, and during village-sanctioned missions no less. It didn't happen that often. Most nobles didn't try when they noticed my teammates, especially Itachi, who have the classic uchiha look. He was chuckling as he poured the tea, iced and sprinkled it with lemon, and the color changed. Kakashi supposed this was why it was the icebreaker tea. Usually, it's just collateral damage. We just happened to share the dining table with the target. It was always easier to just poison the entire table, and wipe out the entire lineage. Naruto began briefing them on his schedule, and Kakashi was surprised by how mundane it was. Aside from regular training expected for any active shinobi and occasional missions with his team, Naruto spent most of his time in the tower. His duties varied, and it was obvious the tower treated him as proper heir to his clan and a seal master. They made him teach in classes, producing his quota in commercial seals sold by the tower and furthering his personal research. Honestly, if not for the training and mission, Naruto could pass for a scholar. Also, something new to learn, Naruto really wanted to go exploring ruins and other historical sites again with his team. Itachi, Shisui, and Naruto were history nerds. Kakashi was floored by the revelation. That was new. What was so interesting about those places? There's a site near the capital. Do you think I can make a trip there after we're done with our mission? His eyes were sparkling. Kakashi could only say, We will see, maybe. He promised nothing. At last the boy smiled, somewhat more genuine than the first one he gave Kakashi, and it was perhaps a small victory. If there was any concern for the age gap with his teammates and Kakashi, it disappeared when he saw Naruto speaking to academy students having sealing art class in the tower. They were supposedly the same age as Naruto, and all treated Naruto as one of their teachers. Kakashi also noted, Naruto was tall for his age compared to his supposed age mate, and his demeanor was so unlike a child. It took the young shinobi placed right next to shinobi in training for Kakashi to really see Naruto would be even more out of place than Kakashi was as a 5-year-old genin. Kakashi knew he used to be teased by adults around him for behaving like a tiny adult. Naruto didn't feel like that at all. He didn't scoff at kids his age and think they were immature. He didn't try projecting maturity because childishness was beneath him. Itachi's little brother was pouting because Itachi was so busy nowadays. It was unfair he couldn't see him at home at all while Naruto could. Naruto just smiled, poked the boy who was supposed to be a few months older in the forehead before promising to make it up to Sasuke. The pink-haired girl who was waiting to speak to Naruto behind Sasuke huffed, and he whirled around, offended. She told him she had a more important question to ask Naruto-sensei. There were very few combat seal masters in the tower, and Naruto was one of them. We rarely get to see him, Sasuke-kun. Don't hog Naruto-sensei. I have questions too. You get to see him more. She shot back. Troublesome. Grumbled Nara behind them. Obviously he also had questions but too lazy to compete with the more aggressive students for his turn. Kakashi suddenly had a déjà vu of himself and Obito, overlapping with an overly serious girl obviously a step ahead than her peers and a hot-tempered Uchiha boy. He almost expected Naruto to take the role of Rin, a patient mediator of the team. He did no such thing. He just waited for them to notice him watching, and they both got embarrassed for fighting in front of him and sheepishly asked their question in turn. Oh, that was more like Minato-sensei, but subtler and more off-handed. He also stopped Shikaku's son from leaving, who turned out not to be there to ask for Fuinjutsu but the record of the game Naruto had played with Daimyo's younger brother. Naruto was quite bemused that Shikaku found out about the game and made his son ask for it. Sure, I think I have it in my room. I will have someone send it to Nara's main house later. Kakashi supposed the Nara was approaching the tower too, nothing alarming but worthy of note anyway. He observed Naruto further from the shadow, while Itachi and Shisui walked with him side by side. As soon as they were out of earshots, Naruto turned to Shisui and his demeanor changed instantly. There was a skip in his step and his expression relaxed. I see what you mean when you say Sasuke-kun has a temper, he told Shisui. He is also very competitive. He mused. Shisui nodded in agreement. I know, right? If I dare to imply I am the stronger uchiha than Itachi, all his sweet facade will go out of the window. Shisui snickered. He would be even more huffy and puffy than he did just now, and his ears would be as red as tomatoes as he defended Itachi's honor. Naruto let out a gasp. Do it next time I'm around, that sounds so adorable. He told Shisui seriously. Itachi coughed. You two don't use my brother as your source of entertainment. Cuteness needs to be shared. Shisui spouted his usual bullshit, as expected of a master. Kakashi wondered if this too was Obito's teaching. Naruto gave his full support. I can agree to that, don't be stingy, Itachi. It's not like there would be less for you. Then he smirked at Itachi, a full-toothed one that clashed with the refined and gentle image he had going. He is very unlike you, Naruto concluded. Itachi is an old man in teenage body, Sasuke is a genuine lil boy. Shisui curled an eyebrow at Naruto, implying something. Naruto huffed. He didn't rise to the bait. Itachi has his moments. You left me to deal with that cat bingo book stamp. Those poor kitties. Shisui was not sorry. I'm glad I wasn't there. Do you guys forget I am here? Itachi attempted to poke their side, but both dodged his finger without even looking. How immature, you can't just poke people when you're losing, Itachi-kun. That only works for Sasuke-kun, Naruto said, patting the finger he captured. They teased the hell out of Itachi, and Kakashi could feel the rest of his team was floored by what they had witnessed. While his team was surprised the stoic Uchiha heir was subject to so much teasing in his team, Kakashi was more surprised by how jarring this team felt compared to his old one with Obito and Rin. It was Naruto's comment about Itachi's brother that made him realize the reason. This team, they didn't have even a shred of competitiveness for each other. There was no demand to keep up with each other or they would be left behind. They were just easy to each other, like being friends and comrades was natural and effortless, like how trees grew chasing the sun in the sky. The sun had set when Itachi and Shisui left the tower to go home, and it was the real first shift of protecting Uzumaki Naruto on their own. As promised, he and Tenzo would be in the workshop openly while the rest of their team guarded the perimeter. It was then Kakashi realized when they were out on meeting and visiting the classroom, the workshop had not been idle. There were 5 clones of Naruto continuing his research vigorously, and the one they guarded blended in right away without a word. Kakashi had his Sharingan open, and he was relieved he could tell the real one was the one they had been protecting since the meeting began. Naruto whipped his head. The real one smiled sheepishly. Don't worry, I am not going to swap with a clone and run off on my own. Judging from Tenzo's tense body, they were both thinking the same thing, and the Chunin read them like an open book. Were they that obvious? Anyway, feel free to observe. He pointed at a spot. I will be using that chair and won't move for the next few hours, I promise. Kakashi wondered if he should tell Naruto he didn't have to accommodate them, but stayed in his spot without answering. It was only half an hour later of Naruto reading and making calculations, he realized Naruto wasn't joking about not moving for the best. He created 2 more clones, and much to Kakashi's shock there was no chakra smoke. It was a slow process, but the chakra Naruto emitted just slowly morphed to his likeness like a ghost materializing. If he was not looking, Kakashi wouldn't believe it either. The reference Naruto looked around, eyes locked to a bookshelves on the other side of the room. Kakashi was about to ask what the boy needed, but Naruto threw his hand forward and an adamantine chain shot up and the tip latched on the target, like a leaf sticking with chakra, and the Uzumaki pulled it to him. Let's see, the matrix, if written in parallel, might work. He had only seen Kushina using her chain before, but to grab a book? Another chain shot forward, and this time for a refill of ink. Kakashi amusedly noted the tip of Naruto's chain was not diamond-shaped like Kushina's but a koma. Another chain was grabbing a pot of tea, and Naruto grimaced when it was already cold. Then the seal master started writing a seal on a piece of paper and placed it below the pot, and it warmed up slowly. He was so casual about it, Kakashi took a second to comprehend there was a seal that created smokeless heat with so little chakra. Tenzo blurted out. That would be amazing for long-term missions. This? Naruto glanced at the seal. I keep forgetting to patent it, but I had free time recently. It shouldn't take long for this to be available in the market by next week. His expression turned a bit gloomy, his eyes haunted. I am not looking forward to the negotiation about royalties. Seriously, money is like water when you're a seal master. Kakashi almost choked at the same line both Kushina and Minato repeated over and over again. Money was like water, because your research fund was never ending. Sometimes I miss the time when I am happy with enough money to buy a bowl of ramen, he grumbled, sipping his hot tea. And now there are too many zeros to deal with. He looked strangely fragile with that dazed look. Naruto worked until dinner time, and Kakashi was quite concerned by vigorous work he did in a day with his clones, even though he claimed there was no physical training today because he should take it easy before the trip to the capital. If this was how much time he spent daily dividing his chakra and also memory through clones, it was no wonder he aged in mentality so rapidly. It was really concerning. Kakashi didn't know what to think of the boy when the night came and he slept with a fox plushie of all stuffed animals in existence. Good night, I love you, Ku. Did the doll's huge ear just twitched? That night was not very peaceful in the end. It wasn't that Naruto had a nightmare, or the intruder came barreling to Naruto's bedroom. It was Tenzo. To be fair, they had been warned about Naruto's plants, but they had thought the Uchiha cousins were talking about ones he kept in his greenhouse. Not any plants the kid owned, including ones in his bedroom. Kakashi was so focused on Naruto's peaceful sleeping face, he didn't notice Tenzo had wandered to check the perimeter of the bedroom, which included the corner of the room with a couple of tiny plants that bring color to the room. Then Tenzo screams, loudly AARRGH. Kakashi turned around, kunai ready in hand, and saw Tenzo's face being eaten by a flower with teeth. Where the hell did it come from? Humph humph. Tenzo's face was caught by a hanging plant, specifically his lips were being slurped like ramen, and Kakashi froze. His junior didn't seem hurt, but the situation was bizarre. Oh dear. Naruto had woken up, rubbing his eyes and yawning. Did you approach my plants? Kakashi gestured towards Tenzo. What should I do to help him? Just don't pull him off forcefully. Naruto told Kakashi. Let Pitcher-san finish. Finish? In a minute. A long minute later, Tenzo was released with lips swollen like Pollock roe. His mask was askew and he fell backward limply. Ah, my first kiss. He covered his lips, crying softly. Naruto, still half asleep, then said, Don't count it, Shisui didn't either. I thought he had warned you all to not get too close to my plants? They don't recognize your chakra signature yet, so they're not gentle. Kakashi stepped away very slowly from any greenery in the room, which took up 1/3 of the sizable bedroom. They're part of your defense mechanism? Yes, actually, he admitted. I'm surprised they like you. It takes a while for them to take a liking to Itachi and Shisui. Was it the quality of your chakra? Tenzo's Mokutan was likely why. Classified. Kakashi stopped the boy from asking further. And we haven't heard about these plants being dangerous. Did you take them from the Forest of Death? No. Unlike them, Naruto didn't have the plant as classified information to keep to himself. They're random results from my experiment. I am best with yang release and my chakra is really dense. The sensor described my chakra as like the sun, warm and nourishing. They shot him. No, it's not Mokutan. I can't control them to do anything. At best they're like untrained puppies. They like me but they don't take orders. Then he flopped back to his bed. If that's all, good night. Kakashi had reached a very sad conclusion about his sensei's son. He didn't understand Uzumaki Naruto at all. Thanks for watching. I hope you had as much fun as I did putting this epic what if together. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a single twist in the story. Drop your thoughts, theories, or even wild ideas in the comments. I read every single one. And hey, if you're craving more awesome Naruto content, go check out the other videos on the channel. I've got plenty of heat waiting for you. Until next time, stay sharp, stay awesome, and remember, even a shadow clone needs love. Peace out.